Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, one of those fellows that gracefully never played the game. And my guest this week is someone who exposed our household to SNL and Mad TV, as well as Mystery Science Theater 3000. Ladies and gentlemen, Angela Metzger.
So much damage. I caused so much damage.
Oh, it all turned out all right.
It did all. We needed to laugh. That's
Lots
the only
of
way we
laughs.
stay sane is laughing.
On the farm.
On the farm. That's right.
I noticed you don't breathe when you laugh. You go like that.
I know.
Totally.
We all have the same one. And when I was hanging out with somebody recently, they're like, "You laugh like Shaggy." I'm like, "What?
What the heck?
I was like, "What?"
That is a compliment, sir. That is a
And
compliment.
I was like, "Well, man." So anyway, and that other voice you hear is our other guest, who is somebody who exposed our household to anime.
Yes.
Well, man, with live comedy and anime, no wonder we all turned out so weird. Ladies and gentlemen, Chelsea Metzger.
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
hot.
It is hot. Yeah. Thank you
Not
guys
just
for
in
being here.
It's gonna. Well, I don't know if it'll change. It'll be like 100 degrees this week or something.
What is it that,
Yeah,
that
tomorrow's the
Family Guy?
highest.
What's the weather like? It's hot out here.
It's hot as
Phil
hell.
Lamar.
It's raining sideways.
Thank you, Rolly. It's raining sideways.
God bless Phil
Cats
Lamar.
and dogs in here.
I
Bring
love
me
that
some
man.
soup.
It's going
What
rain.
flavor? Chocolate.
Oh, for comments, concerns, thoughts, and hate mail, and what series you would like to see a peak analysis on, send them on over. snarpfanglepod at gmail.com.
All right.
Here we go, guys. So, for those who are uninitiated who are listening, this is our peak analysis series where we take a deep dive into a certain piece of media, basically, whether it be TV show, movie, video game, book, or even album, because we've done those too.
Yeah.
If you are interested, we did a peak analysis. If you're interested in like further Netflix stuff, we did peak analysis, me and Angie,
Yeah.
on
House on a Haunted Hill.
House on a Haunted Hill.
The haunting.
Lexi and me
The haunting.
just.
Well, I'm thinking of the book.
Oh yeah, the
it goes
haunting
back
of
to
Hill
the book.
House.
It's true.
Yes.
Well, the
Similar to
book
the other
is
thing
the
that
book
came
is called What I Said. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they renamed the TV
We got it
series.
mixed up during our horror episode too.
Yeah, you were like, it's this, right?
I was like,
It's tricky because
No.
that's the name of the novella.
which one has
Yeah.
Vincent Price in it?
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we did one on Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan. And did you guys see, by the way, that Jack O'Connell's in the running to play Clayface in his movie?
Oh my gosh. I can't. I will watch anything Mike Flanagan does just after.
So hype.
That's my favorite Batman villain.
Oh my gosh.
And-
He's so great.
And Mike Flanagan said the script he wrote for the Clayface film, which is an Elseworlds film in the DC,
Right.
elsewhere, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He
Those are
said
what-if
he was
stories.
heavily inspired by the Batman the Animated Series
Oh.
two-parter with Clayface.
I have such a
Why
soft
didn't they
spot
just
for
let
that.
Ron Perlman straight up play?
Well, I mean, why
He's
not?
still
They
acting.
should do that, and then he could just voice it.
Yeah, that
That'd
would
be
be
cool.
awesome.
Just have the monster version be him, and then
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
kind of lame, but
Yeah, it's like Jack O'Connell, the dude who was in the new Hunger Games
Oh,
as
nice. Seamus?
Snow.
Oh, as
No,
Snow.
yeah.
Yeah, him and like two other folks.
Yeah, the
are in
British.
running.
He's a British
That'll-
actress.
Yeah.
Actor,
So anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, if you're interested in another peak analysis, we have that. We did 3 different albums.
Yes.
Me, David, and
That
Steven.
was fascinating.
Dark Side of the Moon
No,
was one
wasn't
of
it
them.
Richard?
No, we did the hip hop one with
The
Richard.
hip hop one was Richard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then me and Alexi did a deep dive on our first video game entry,
Nice.
which was Beyond Good and Evil. 3
So good.
hours
It was so good.
of a very cult classic video game. So
But I love your analysis because it's such a unique take, Jake.
yeah,
And I'm always entertained
you.
and I always learn something when I listen to your podcast. So rock on.
yeah. And we're gonna hear more today. Gonna learn more today. I'm excited to talk to you guys about League of Legends: Arcane on Netflix. This came out in 2021, I believe.
The first season.
The first season, and then 2024 for season 2.
3 years. Wait.
Dang, I couldn't believe that.
I
Yeah,
know.
it went by so
you
quick
got
for
to
me,
just
though.
watch it
I
with
just got to
me
just watch
the
it.
next week. And then I'm just like, you didn't realize I had to wait 3 years,
yeah,
Jake.
me and Allie did too.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I was like,
I was like,
"Ooh."
oh, it's a hard wait.
So, yeah, well, before we super deep dive into it, let's get into why we'd recommend it to the audience here, and then we'll get into just spoilers galore. Because peak analysis, for those unaware, is just a deep dive spoiler cast for whatever. So, Angie, why would you
Ooh.
recommend this
Maybe
to
Chelsea
everybody
wants to go
else?
first.
But maybe Chelsea wants to go
Okay,
first.
go,
Well,
Chelsea.
no, I had another base question to start. It's like
Go right
none
ahead.
of
You
us
can go and
have.
write it if you want.
None of us have. Huh?
You
Have
can
you
go and
looked
write
at
it
the
in there.
document?
No.
I'm looking at Red. I see you typing something.
No, none of us are familiar with League of Legends, right?
Yeah, I have
No,
never
no.
played the game. I know about it because I've had some students do papers on it.
Right. Have you seen any videos, like the music videos?
I've done
Yeah.
the
music
music
videos, and
videos.
I've seen the
Yeah.
cutscenes for a couple, like people just doing walkthroughs.
Right.
But
you
I've
guys saw
never
the
played it
KDA
myself.
ones, right, with the pop.
Yep.
girls?
Yep, the pop.
Yep.
girls,
Yeah. Okay. Those.
Do you
ones
want
we
to do you want to start off like when we get to
We
do
can
you
do it
wanna-
after recommending the show.
Yeah, after we recommend, do you want to do the
Okay.
little history of what happened?
I think that would be great. Yeah, because
I
I
don't
really
know.
don't know much about
History
it.
of what?
Well, the history of how this show came to be from the music videos, the guys who
I have
directed
no
those.
idea about that.
I can get into a little
I
bit of
only
it.
know like the base game stuff.
All right, no worries. Well, Angie, let's head it over to you.
Okay.
Why would you recommend this to the audience?
My recommendations are pretty much the reason why I am motivated to watch anything if it has a strong narrative arc and the characters are dynamic. And I watched the first season right when COVID was lifted in Mendocino College and I was commuting again. And I was listening to the soundtrack, like as I was driving. And one of my students came to me in the lab right before class. And I'm like, no, leave me alone. I have 10 minutes before class begin. And I'm mildly obsessed with Arcane. And I need to listen to this song one more time. And so it was just like, it was like something nice because I had a 2.5 hour drive down and a 2.5 hour back. And so it was a lot.
It was season 1.
It was
soundtrack.
season 1. And I would drive and I would listen to the themes and the music. And I would think about the journey each character was on in season 1. And it just was a lot like Last of Us. You know, I'd never played the game. I'd watch the walkthroughs and the
But the
cutscenes,
quality.
but the quality of the narrative and the way in which they made you feel what those characters were feeling. And it was deep and it was complicated. And even the one guy with the eye who's trying to bring his daughter back, the scientist, the mad scientist, I forget what his name is, Singe. Even his story, like he's not like a black and white villain. There are very complicated motivations for the reason he's experimenting on these people. And I really am impressed when a narrative can take me somewhere and I have no idea how they're going to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And both in season 1 and season 2, I had no idea they were going there. And
Especially when you realize that season 2, before it even came out, they said this was last season.
the last
and you're
season.
like, what the heck? How are they going to wrap all this up?
And they
did.
a
How'd they
masterful
do
job.
that, bro?
And I feel like, you could see echoes of that in the first season, but when you got to the second season, they really showed their narrative chops. And I was impressed. And just for 24 years of teaching English and literature, it's refreshing to watch something like that. And I'm like, I'm ready for the journey. Take me on it. So I think that's one of the reasons I was most attracted to it and why the characters kind of stuck in my brain and their choices stuck in my brain too. So there we go.
Amen, sister.
All right. Thank you, brother.
You know what? That's a good point you brought up because you have actually you've edited many a thesis back in your day.
I've read many a
many,
student essay that was both good and bad.
Good and bad.
And one time I had a student essay that was in one whole sentence and it was 4 pages. And he didn't even put any punctuation at the end. And I wrote on there, periods are our friends,
it was a
commas are our
running
friends.
sentence.
Yes, they are. And it's just like I've had some interesting experiences as an educator, but I have to say
4 pages of one sentence.
yeah, it was one run-on sentence. The entire thing was one sentence. I'm like,
That's a challenge.
for God's sake, Gabe, just put a comma in there, okay? So I have to say, I've had exposure to a lot of stuff, but when you're taught to teach classics, and I think we talked about this a lot in The Haunting of Hill House, that there's just, there's a reason why they stick around for 100 years or more. And that's because there's a quality to that art. And there's a certain creativity that shines through it. And I really don't think you have to stick to the classics. I think the modern stuff, there's really some interesting stuff that's being pumped out from a literary and an analysis standpoint. And I feel like if you can walk away from art and still think about stuff, that, there's value and there's merit. And even if it's not your cup of tea, just give it a shot and see if it's worth your time.
Yeah.
But that's just me from an educating standpoint.
Yeah. That reminds me of another Netflix show, which I eventually would love to do a peak analysis on. I don't think any of you have interest in this, but definitely Cobra Kai because
interesting.
It's based
Start on
on the
YouTube.
Karate Kid, obviously, and it's
Yeah.
continuing the story, but it's really taking the characters in a unique perspective, and the best characters are actually the new ones
The
they
new ones.
create.
Yeah.
Like all the kids, and I have a
That's cool.
strong connection with that show
Because people are going to show up for the nostalgia,
Yeah.
but
but
they're not just using that as a bait.
Precisely.
They actually did their work.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's just, there's lots of cool stuff about that show. But anyway.
No, but it is interesting what captures our attention And I think if you can look at some, because most of us do what? We watch something, we're like, oh, that was nice. Okay, let's move on. But when it sticks with you and you kind of gestates. If you want to
show it to people.
Yes, if you want to show it to people.
If you want to rewatch it multiple times.
Precisely.
That's an automatic recommend. That's what makes money. And if you go to see a movie in theaters, what makes money is people going back again and again and again to see it.
Well, and also that art can stand on its own.
Yeah.
That's I think that's
what makes it, it's like Spider-Verse. Like that's what makes it perfect.
Like what is it? Like for years people have been like, oh, popular culture. And that was really the mantra when
you're right.
No, people were like when you watch stuff in Shakespeare.
You watch Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Again, but I think it's people looking down on something because it isn't high art, it's just popular culture.
That's been a debate for
and
years.
Since social media has come into the mix, the game has changed. Like I remember doing a paper about Harry Potter being a messianic figure and having a lot of Christian themes in it. And everybody all the graduate students and some of the teachers were like, if you want to write about that, I guess it's okay. But it's not Wittgenstein. And then after social media, all the gatekeepers and the barriers came down.
Yeah.
And I seriously saw a Pokemon paper 2 years ago.
Heck yeah.
No, it was in a philosophy journal. And it was Wittgenstein's principles in Pokemon characters. And I was like, what is this? And so
people will read it.
And the whole thing is,
be
it's a whole new world. We're living in a time where there's limitless opportunity.
The barriers
for
are
art.
fallen.
And I think like that, instead of some people lamenting it, like, oh, our culture is going to the toilet. It's like, well,
it went to the toilet already.
I was like,
about it that way.
My whole thing is, what if there's new, wonderful, creative things that are going to happen? What if we're heading towards a renaissance? Why does it always have to be negative? And I feel like, but that's the beauty of art. If you watch something and it stays with you and it gets you through your day, it's worth the time. Even if it's Cobra Kai, I don't really, it doesn't matter to me because I feel
you
like.
could be into like a little kid show.
Yes,
like Bluey.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bluey's
Bluey is huge.
Yes, and I'm going to look at Hegelian maturation in the characters of Bluey. I mean, you could apply anything.
Yeah, you will.
Like I said, we live in a different time. It's completely different.
You can talk about like our primal instincts with Bluey because there's a lot of like show don't tell. There's a lot of stuff where characters don't talk. But
there are so many essays
and see things happening.
Psychology
You're like,
journals about Bluey and the way that you acclimatize children to society.
It's so worth it.
It is. And I feel like, it's a new era. And I don't look at that sadly. I look at that with a lot of hope. Because it's like, that's what's so fun. You can enjoy something and it stays with you.
I mean, if it can keep you in this world and keep you going another day.
Well, what is it?
You shouldn't get mad at something like that.
I got something for Casey's birthday, our cousin, and it said, don't stop. No, I already gave it to her. But It was something where that said, don't stop writing because it might be the reason someone else keeps going.
Oh,
and I thought,
really
that is, isn't that kind of the thing with art, that your art inspires somebody else?
There's an interesting Reddit post I found this last weekend because the Switch 2 launched.
Oh,
and this guy put on Reddit. Well, hear me out. The guy put on Reddit because when the people who pre-ordered at Walmart, they made a surprise. Walmart did a surprise thing where they gave him the Switch, but then gave him a can of Pringles and a Coca-Cola bottle.
Oh my god!
Like as a treat or whatever to like, hey, here's a nice little promotional courtesy for you guys.
Something extra.
And when they gave that to him, the guy said that he went and got the Switch. He came back. He was taking his insulin, and then something messed up where his blood sugar dropped down to 45.
Gosh.
What the heck?
And he said, crap, I need sugar right now. And the bag of
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola is literally sitting in the bag right there. So he grabbed it and started drinking
There's
it.
a heavenly light.
And he said, if I never got
he
said, if I never got my Switch, I would have not be writing this post, basically.
No.
So it's like, yeah, you want to go to your art, but it's like sometimes art has funny things that can save you.
I think that's an
so
angel
amazing.
thing that happened right
Yeah,
there.
that's
Someone was
definitely
praying
angel.
for that
Divine
guy.
moment. It was a
divine moment. For
Yeah.
sure. But definitely, like, you don't know who is looking at you or who you're going to inspire next. So that's where I come from, that perspective, kind of, Angie, is where you don't know who you're going to inspire with your writing, and it could be just one person. You know, I think right now we only have like 50-something subscribers on Snarp Fangle. I'm like, hey, I'm thankful for the one.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah.
And one of our recent episodes was like the lowest in like the last couple months. But somebody came to my door the other day.
Oh,
and they stopped by. It was Connor. Shout out to you, Connor.
I love
and he
Connor.
said, yo, I loved that episode with Justin. It was so much fun.
It was fun.
And I was like, oh, well, thanks, man. And so he's like, you're going to do video? I'm like, yeah, one day. But we'll get there.
Well, and I think we also live in a time where there's so much access to stuff that we we never had access before.
Mhm.
I mean, basically, it's all the hippies in the 1960s. We're living their dream. All of their ideas of free information and sharing ideas.
Free information.
You know, that was the whole thing, that it was open to everyone. It wasn't hidden behind government documents.
Everything free.
Yeah, that
Like-
you had access to it. And I feel like there's a lot of art that I'll see that inspires me.
Mhm.
And then I feel like there's art, like you watching Cobra Kai, like, oh, wow, it may not be my cup of tea, but you're passionate about it. Why are you passionate about it?
Mhm.
You know, what is it about that art that stays with you?
It's really
Mhm.
special.
And or like you said, like a kid show like Bluey. I mean,
It could be anything.
it could be anything. And I feel like that's the beauty of living now is we have access to that stuff and we're inspired by each other.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's something worth debating and worth talking about and spending time on. So there we go.
I pretty much added mine in there by saying, hey, if it's rewatchable, like from a business
Yes.
standpoint, but also from an entertainment standpoint. Yeah, that was my
From a
recommendation.
creative
Why you would recommend the show.
Why you should, yeah. The clip, I show people 2 clips from the show to try and get them interested. And the first is season 1, the bridge fight,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that
where
bridge
they
fight.
imagine themselves as little kids.
Dynasties
back and,
and
forth.
dystopias.
And then the second one is the alley fight from season 2
oh,
with the guy with the extendable limbs.
yeah, and Sabika
Oh.
shows
Sabika
up.
kills him. Yeah.
Yeah, you already made your deal. Yeah,
So sick. That song is so good.
yeah,
I would say it's a partly, of course, it's the art direction. I would say is one thing, like the animation, the quality, high quality of it. Like no holds barred. This is one of the most impressive animated things
Yes.
out there. I would say next to maybe the first Spider-Verse as well as the second
That's what a
one.
lot of people are saying. They're comparing it to Spider-Verse.
And it's
Yeah,
cool because
yeah.
Spider-Verse was 2018. That kind of
so
it was kind of weird. It was like Lego Movie,
Yep,
and then a lot of that team went on to Spider-Verse,
yep.
and Lego Movie was super impressive.
It was so good.
And then
Yeah,
you
it
get
was. It was good.
Spider-Verse, and they're like, "How is this gonna work?" Miles Morales, and it,
but the animation.
what?
Okay, let me ask you.
But let
sorry,
me finish.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, let me finish. So you get that, and then this was already in development in 2018, and then you get it in 2021.
They announced it in like 2016.
Oh, it was 2016. Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah, but it took the animation took.
But
the
yeah,
computer
because they
generated stuff.
released
Yeah,
a little. They
a
released a
long
clip
time.
online of what it was, and none of the clips from online are in the show. It was the characters look totally different,
Yeah,
and then everybody forgot about it.
yeah.
And then the announcement happened. You're like, oh wait, yeah, I remember this was trending or whatever. And you're like, what? When you see the trailer,
Well, and
Yeah.
it's one of those stories. Spider-Man's a lot like Batman in the DC universe, where we've seen Batman done 1,000 times. But what is it about that character that we keep coming back to? Same thing with Spider-Man. We've watched this kid make the same mistakes so many times. And I thought they brought a very fresh and original take to it. They followed the comic books somewhat, and then they went back.
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse
Yeah,
was so
Spider-Verse, yeah.
amazing to watch that story and then bring in the multiverses and stuff. And
as someone who knew the comic book, I was like, there's no way you can make one movie. There's no way you can make a movie out of this stupid comic book story.
And then they did
It was
it.
so frustrating. I
And then
had
they
to,
did.
had to read a million different series to get the story.
Just wait until we get to Secret Wars next year. Like,
I know.
Oh, see, I
That's
was
gonna be-
I
or
was
the year
dead
after,
trying to figure
yeah.
out. Sam
I'm like,
President.
there's no, and they might actually do it. So,
well, and
but
I
you
feel
have,
like
I believe
it's
it
so wonderful to like live in this time period. People look
Oh,
at this
yeah.
like, why am I alive in this time period with COVID and all this crazy stuff? And it's like, no, it's a
one of the
great
best
time.
timelines.
It's one of the
We're living
greatest.
in
I
the
mean,
best
think
time.
about it. Like you could be in the Middle Ages where like people are getting beheaded and you're covered in blood, and you're like, do you ever feel like we're living in a bad time? You know, a miracle
I
worker
feel
like
like
Daniel Radcliffe
complaining
did that, and they're
about-
just like covering each other up with sheets, and then when they execute the person, they put it back, and it's just one of those things. Like it's a wonderful time, but also it's a wonderful time that art and I feel creativity is really flourishing. And I feel like creativity is often influenced by something spiritual. So I feel like
let
people are
me,
hungry for that.
Yeah,
Let me ask
so-
you this. How would you explain it to an average Joe? How would you get them to watch
So
it?
I
Because
would say
I work with
it's-
average Joes. None of them are nerds. Like
so I
none
would
of them are
say
nerds.
you don't need to know anything about the game.
Yep.
All you need to do is, I would say, just start it, and you would expect something like it's a futuristic or it's a fantasy and a sci-fi, but the characters are really, really great, as well as all of the action and the art. Like I think that would be my
Yes.
pitch to people.
Yeah.
And I would say overall, it's just a fantastic writing and all that, and it's worth investing your time into.
Yeah.
And it's only 8 episodes for the first
Nine.
season.
Nine.
Each
Or
episode is 9 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, no, and I also feel like you could, if they were Star Wars people, you could say it's basically Star Wars if Luke
Yeah.
and Leia were enemies.
Yeah.
And they're like
That's
Harry
basically
Potter
what
fans.
it
Like
is.
it's basically Harry Potter, except they're not in a school and they're not in the thing. Trying to get Harry Potter.
Not this, not that.
I feel
There's
like
magic?
it's so like, almost like Blade Runner, where it's like this is a
Kinda.
future dystopia and everything's dirty.
Yeah, just
And
less
it's not
cyber.
good. Because Blade Runner was the first one where, we have a futuristic setting and it's grimy and it's nasty and it's not fun. And I
Grungy.
feel like this does that, and it has a lot of perspectives on politics and why people do the things they do. But at the core is this message of family and the people you love and the lengths to which you're willing to go to survive and be loyal to them at the same
I'm
time.
surprised they did like a lot of politics in it.
Well,
they
because
did it
I
really
was like,
good.
are we
Looking
really
at the
gonna get like all these
strata.
politics?
I was watching episode 4 of season 1 last night, and the part where Jace is talking to all the people, I'm like, man, if only Phantom Menace had this level of political intrigue in it.
all these crazy.
Well, it's
camera
like
shots.
the ideas were there, George Lucas, but this is like how to do it.
Yeah, and when I say
Anyway.
politics, I'm not talking about our current political state.
No,
where
No,
everything's
no, no.
political.
We're talking
I'm
about fantasy
of
politics.
Well, no, I'm also talking about
Portrayed.
timeless
Yeah.
ideologies around politics that have been debated for thousands of years.
Yes.
And that's really, I think, what this show taps into
Yeah.
to some extent. And I didn't expect it to go there. I thought it was just going to be character driven. And there are these overarching narratives they explore, and they do it in such a tasteful way with the art, with the stories. And I think that's one of the reasons I was so hyped for season 2, and it didn't let me down.
and it all connects.
And it
like
all
even when you
connects.
think like, oh, they're showing us like 4 different characters in 4 different separate places that are going on at the same time.
Scary
It's like,
stories, yeah.
but they all come together
That's
at
right.
some point.
That's right. Exactly.
It's so cool.
Me,
All right,
I forgot
what's
to
next?
send you the doc, and sorry.
Oh, no. I
you have it?
accessed it on Google Docs
Okay, you're
today.
good then. You're good.
I just didn't have time to read everything in detail,
Yeah.
but I figured we'll talk that out.
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah,
through
Jake basically wrote an essay.
Good
again.
job, Jake. Good job.
it. For some
I can't wait to
characters,
see it.
I don't have.
But all of
everything.
them are like that at some point.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have a
Awesome.
episode by episode breakdown, but I'll just scan through that for.
Okay, so
minutes.
where do you
we
wanna
want
start?
to do instead of episode by episode?
No,
do we
we're
wanna
not
do
doing
every
episode
3
by episode.
episodes?
No, we're
Let's
gonna go
do.
thematic, I
Let's
think.
do.
Okay.
You
So
wanna just-
first off, let's describe what it is, and then we'll get into spoilers. So
Okay.
this is your last chance. So I'll explain this, and then it's
Last
over.
chance to go watch the
go
whole show.
watch
and then
it.
come
It's
back.
on Netflix. It's totally worth it.
It
Totally
is.
worth your time.
It's worth 18 episodes. It really is.
And you
It's
don't
really
have to
great.
binge it. You can take your time watching
Yeah,
it.
take your time,
Yeah.
especially since it's already in arcs. Like the first 3 episodes, watch those, and then see how you
That's
feel.
how they were released.
Yeah, how they were. Yeah.
Every week they would come
Every
out with 3
week.
episodes.
Yep. And
But
it was
during their
very
season 1, so
so
3
yeah.
weeks.
All right. Well, you had your chance.
All right.
So get out of here.
Let's go forward.
Get out of here.
All right. Let's
Spoiler
go
alert.
for it.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I want to start?
Okay,
I would
Arcane is
say
an
let's
animated
start.
You pick the-
show
you
based
pick the
off of
question.
You
anime.
go, Chelsea, with that. Start out with that.
What?
So it's a yeah. Go ahead and
Oh.
continue reading. Sorry.
Okay.
Continue reading.
Arcane is an animated TV show based off an MMO video game called League of Legends by Riot Games. That's the basics of it, and it's a top-down game.
It's very distant
in Age of
from the
Mythology,
show.
It's like you select your characters,
Yep.
and you tell them where to go and what to
Yeah.
do.
It's
So
like
you do that,
a-
except
yeah.
instead of building and like cultural stuff, it's literally just battling. It's like, okay,
Yeah, it's nothing
you're
but
the
Like
heavy,
Diablo,
you're gonna go block all
basically.
these millions of characters coming in here. You're the fast one, so you're gonna go around them and try to attack from behind.
Okay.
It's that kind of
Different
game, and then you
tactics.
have to defend your base basically, and then there are other bases of other players.
So it's military tactics.
Yeah,
much.
pretty
Oh,
much.
nice,
And then the
nice.
characters are what people are there for.
I had no idea because I've never
And
played the
how
game.
many characters are there?
I don't know,
Let me Google that.
like over 100 for sure.
Well,
For
and
sure.
kind of like
Like playable
Apex,
characters?
there are just characters
Yeah.
that are
Oh,
fan
there's a
favorites.
ton of original characters in
Mhm.
Arcane that are not in the game.
Yeah.
Because we were watching it, we finished Arc 1, and then that was the first 3 episodes when it first came out. And Alid's like, so are all these characters in the game? And I'm like, well,
Holy
we know
crap.
for sure Jinx is, because her Jinx music video
Yeah.
went popular.
Yeah.
And I'm
So-
like, okay, wait. So I looked it up, and I was like, whoa. So Ambessa's original, Mel's not in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
The only one from their family was Kino. He was a
The
character.
brother, huh?
Yeah, who doesn't
Okay.
show up in the show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Isn't that the one she sees in the Black Rose?
Well, she sees him, but it's not actually him.
No, I know. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
We
that's
still
what he
get
looks
the
like,
image
yeah.
of him. Yeah.
So he was the only one out of their
Oh
family.
my gosh. That's a lot
So-
of characters.
Word.
So this is all the characters, 140 plus characters
Look at
on
all
the
that
website.
goodness.
And the reason
You,
why
you know
the
you're
game
there
is,
for the cake.
and the reason
right?
why the game is free is because they cycle through them. So you have like
Nice.
3 free characters you can pick for the week. And
Well, they
then-
do like all the
they-
freaking microtransactions that apps do today,
yeah.
where it's like, oh, the game is free, like
And this was
Fortnite.
back
But if you want this character,
in
you gotta
09,
pay like
I
$10.
Oh, they
believe.
started in it's funny. 09
Yeah.
is really the start of a lot of very interesting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
even
remember
08
going into
too.
like
It's really interesting.
Walmart or Target, and you'd see like the TVs which would have trailers to video games.
Yeah.
And they don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
In like the video game sections, I remember before 2009 we saw like the World of Warcraft one.
Yep.
And that was like
Yeah.
World of Warcraft 4 or something like that.
It was just World of Warcraft.
I can't remember.
There's
which
only been one of
was
World of
coming out.
Warcraft.
But
Yes.
yeah, and
It's been
I
going
remember
on
seeing stuff from
21
League of Legends
years.
because I remember seeing I can't remember her name, Fox Chick, Ninetales Fox Chick.
Oh,
She's the one in
yeah,
KDA
yeah.
with the
I don't
tail.
know.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
I'm not
But yeah.
that weird.
I'm not that weird.
Not into that kind of stuff.
Well,
But anyway.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
No.
If you grew up watching Disney movies talking animals, you are.
This is true.
Doesn't make me a furry. All right. So, yeah, we don't have any history with the game, really.
Yeah.
We've
I sure
seen the
don't.
music videos.
I enjoy
though.
watching the videos.
And I would like to start off with that real quick. So, the show, from what I understand, the show started, it was greenlit in, I think, 2016. They announced it. And it was directed by the people who were in charge and animated by the folks that did the music videos for the K-pop songs
yeah, so
from South Korea.
Studio Fortiche, which is based in
Fortiche.
France.
Yeah.
It's started by 3 guys. The first thing they did for League of Legends was Jinx, Get Jinx. Do you remember when that came out?
I remember you guys showing me. Was
so
that
I
2014?
didn't. So at the time, Brony fandom was big. So
Okay.
any
No.
video game knowledge I have came from the Brony fandom. And I saw someone did an SFM
whoa.
of Pinkie Pie with that song.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
what is this? And so someone had the link to the original music video and I watched it and I was like, what is this? This is crazy. And it was her music video. And from there they did they call it League of Legends Worlds, Champion Worlds, where they do their competitions. Yeah, that's the
Cool.
original.
The
music video.
animation is
That's
so
dope.
amazing.
It
And
looks
it's the
just
same
like
style.
Arcane.
It looks the same.
It looks
But you know,
exactly like Arcane.
It's one of those things that it's like I had never heard the music. I'd never done anything with the music until after I watched the season 1.
Their first,
And I was so impressed
Yeah.
at what they did.
So the very
cool.
first music, this isn't the very first music video they did with someone. The first one they did as like a music video with the characters was the lead singer of Dragon Force was in it.
Oh yeah, the Dragon Force one.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
where like all the
downloaded
creepy
it.
demon dudes are invading a cute little animal village. And that was League of Legends too.
yes, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, they're like, oh, the fire. So it was crazy. I was like, what is this?
It's interesting watching this Get Jinx music video now because it's like
That is not the Jinx we know. Like,
it's exactly though the same style
Yeah.
of what they're trying
I love
to
it. Like
get
she invades the
across.
zoo and she paints the rhino.
That's so cool.
So sick.
Jinx was here.
Of course, they've made a Pinkie Pie parody out of this.
She
thing.
became the most pretty, I would argue, the most popular character.
Oh, she definitely
Yeah.
is now.
She has manic pixie dream vibes, sure.
She does.
She's
But
like-
she
yeah,
also
it's
is
like-
one of those kind of like cutthroat villains that
She's
you're
like
attracted to.
She's like their Harley Quinn, right?
She
is
It's
like the Harley
the
Quinn,
appeal
yeah.
of her is that she's crazy and she's
And
not afraid of anything.
well, and that's another thing connected to Harley Quinn is with the colors. I thought it
Yeah.
was so interested in the TV series that the one sister is
Look
pink
at this
and
ending
she's
shot
blue.
with her on the straight That looks like it's straight out of
yeah,
the
that's totally
the
great out of
show.
Arcane, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That
and
was
that
before they
monkey's
even
in the
start-
show too.
Yep, that's her monkey. That
oh,
that is the ball.
The show is so detailed.
no, the,
That's so cool.
Full of all
they
these
really
references.
honor the original material.
That's pretty cool.
So cool.
It is. It's very.
Well, they
neat.
made it. I mean,
Yeah,
They
you
did
know?
a great job.
yeah. 2013. This was supposed to 2015, 11 years ago.
Wow.
Right?
Dang,
Oh God, it's been that
2013.
long.
And then
So-
2016, the show got greenlit, and then it took them 5 years. I
5
bet you they
years,
were going to do
2021.
Did
no
you
doubt.
thought it
guys
was
see any of the?
2019.
You guys saw any of the trailers for like their commercials for the World's Championships with Imagine
Yeah.
Dragons? Because their
Maybe.
first one with Imagine Dragons was
Not
the
until
Warriors.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Not until after I saw the TV
Not
show,
until
and then I
after,
was like,
yeah.
I'm interested in this. Yeah.
Because I was watching those, I think, while they were coming out. So like they did Warriors.
Nice.
Here we are.
The
So that
Warriors.
ever since that, Imagine Dragons has been involved with the business side of
Really?
League of Legends.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, they did. And then when KDA came out, everyone was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then they kind of took over.
I was living close to Provo, Utah when they went big.
Really?
And it was such a huge thing there because Provo, Utah is the Mormon Nashville.
Ah.
And most of them were Mormon, and now most of them are ex-Mormon. But it was so huge where I lived because where I lived was 75% LDS. That everybody's like, oh, Imagine Dragons.
Yeah,
They have
Dragons,
Muppets.
yeah.
They have Muppets in their first
Yeah,
video.
they're Mormons.
Oh,
They're
yeah, I
Radioactive.
forgot about that.
Radioactive.
Radioactive.
A Muppet death battle fight clubs.
The latest one, the latest World's Championship from last year, it's Linkin Park.
Oh,
And the new the
interesting,
new
yeah.
singer for Linkin Park, I can't remember her name, but it's a girl.
yeah.
And I remember like people were like, "Oh my God, it's a girl! How can Linkin Park have a girl singer?" But
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
theme
yeah.
for that was "Heavy as the Crown," which is in season 2.
Yeah.
Heavy
Yeah.
as the Crown.
Yeah, because it's like
yeah.
if you want to rule, you have to take everything, which is a Shakespeare line from Henry IV, which
nice.
is heavy as the crown that Heavy is the head that wears the crown, but at the same time, it's a hollow crown.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fulfill you.
Mm.
So you have to
and
put
I think
it
in
on.
season 2, it's when Caitlyn
yeah.
is an influence to step up or whatever. Yeah.
By her ginger girlfriend.
No,
Evil
by
ginger
Vesta.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
That's
Vesta's
it.
got her hands in all of it.
And her ginger girlfriend who was influencing her.
Yeah, her ginger girlfriend.
because
Hired by
Vesta was puppeting
yeah.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Big, we'll get to her.
Yeah.
Dude, don't say it. We'll talk
Once
about
we
it.
get to her. But let's start with the zero question I have listed. I don't know
Okay.
why.
I'm up
Zero
What do we
question.
think of the two main characters, the sisters? We can go in any different direction, really, with this. But what do you got for Jinx and Vi, their arc, their story, their
Can I take a
redemption
stab
with
at it?
each other? If you want to take it off, or take off with this question. go for it.
I feel like they are at the heart of the story. We are introduced in season 1, and I'm not going to refer to the games because I don't know as much about the games, but just
Trust
purely
me,
the TV
there's
series.
no story in the games.
Well,
There's no
not
story.
like Chelsea has a little bit more knowledge than I do. So, but I would say like you're introduced to those two kids walking through battle fog over the bridge to find their dead parents.
Mm.
when they try to,
And when they do find their parents, they're gone, and this starts their origin story. And I think the last episode ends with the separation of those two sisters.
Yeah.
And we see them come together and go apart throughout the series. But I think those two characters are at the heart of what drives that story. Yeah, it has a lot of commentary on politics and human nature and lies and why people want power. But at the heart of it, it's Jinx / Powder and Vi, her sister.
Right.
And
A family member struggling with mental illness and identity.
yep.
And then someone who doesn't really understand any of that at all. Like, she is trying, Vi, when she did finally meet Jinx again after all those
she
years.
apologizes.
And she was like, I want to make this right away and stuff, but Powder's so damaged.
in the first season where they separate and Powder inadvertently, spoiler alert, ends up killing 3 people, and because she was trying to help, and the sister, kind of violently comes after her, and then she does the right thing. She's like, okay, I'm too close to the situation. She goes for a walk, but the problem is the villain, one of the main villains of the series,
She left her
steps
sister
in
alone.
and she gets kidnapped and taken back
Right.
to
She
prison
wasn't taking care of her.
for 5 or 6 years.
No, it's more than that. It's like 10
7, 8.
years or something like that.
Okay, so they go from children to being, women by the next time we see them.
Yeah, the next time we've seen their
and
adults.
the only thing Vi's been able to do is like train.
Yeah, she's been trapped in prison, so
And-
she's just been beefing up.
Yeah, she's just been like, there's nothing to do, so I'm gonna work out. And like you see
Gotta
that
work
the
out.
the issues of mental illness are still in her sister, but part of it is confronting that pain, that trauma she's never able to get over.
Right.
And you also have someone who's, mental illness. They're not in the right mind. It could be schizophrenic. It could be multiple personalities. Now it's, dissociative disorder.
Which could be
DID.
Jinx. She might have clinical schizophrenia because it's not necessarily a multiple personality disorder as people might think. It can be hallucinations.
Yeah, and that's what she
hears the
experienced.
voices of the people she killed.
Yes, they're
all the
with
time.
her. They're
All the time.
They're leaning on her shoulder through a lot of the
There's a
animation.
part where she's on the bridge before the cool part in season 1 that I mentioned, and she's watching Vi talk to
Caitlin,
the guards on the bridge.
Oh, that's right.
And the one kid who was mean to her, who she got killed, shows up as a giant shadow above her and like covers
Yeah.
her. And it's like
Almost
it
demonically.
represents kind of her feelings, like how much it controls her.
Well, and how
and-
much she is haunted by the past.
Right.
And haunted by, like Peter Parker. I made one mistake. I let this guy go because it's not my problem.
yeah.
And it ends up haunting him.
yeah.
And I feel like with her, where the difference is Peter Parker found purpose in saving people. Like Jinx just doesn't have that.
And they were her family. So it's way more damaging than,
Like, you killed your brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go off of what you just said, Angie. I've got a little write-up here about Jinx. I only wrote about 3 characters, and Jinx was one of them. So I think my overall thoughts after finishing this is that Jinx is kind of a great example of how your identity can become a prison.
Ooh,
We see
I like
this
that.
fully illustrated when she's actually in prison, and Caitlyn confronts Jinx in season 2. Vi even says in that episode 8, I believe, who decides to get a second chance when Jinx is at her lowest because Isha just passed on and she did the
season 2,
self-sacrifice.
Mhm.
Furthermore, Silco says this when Jinx is at her lowest point in that prison, which is, I believe, in the next couple
Oh, she's
scenes.
hallucinating him.
Yeah, she's hallucinating.
Yeah.
He says in quotes, we build our own prisons, bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments, walls of self-doubt and accepted limitation. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us. I think I could break free by limiting those that I deem my jailers. And he says, anyway, I think the cycle only ends when you find the will to walk away. I may be thinking that was Silco.
It was Silco because she's hallucinating.
Yeah,
that's right.
With her hair now and everything.
And it was nice for him to come back and do the voice.
I know. I noticed that. I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah. And I might be... Man, my thing's not charging. I might be thinking too deeply into this dialogue and the writing of the show, but everything leading up to this is kind of shows this redemption arc for Jinx. But it also kind of serves as a commentary, I believe, this is just me, but a commentary for the modern idea of identity and how people latch onto things and use that as their crutch to behave however they like. I think of current movements where identity is pushed upon others and the idea of your identity is being tied to fickle things, especially people's opinions about you and what you're telling you who you are. This exemplifies exactly what Jinx has gone through. Nice. And I also want to comment on the ending where we see Jinx fall. It was all foreshadowed when Isha sacrifices herself. And this is shown again with Jinx at the end. It's really beautiful how it all goes.
So what was cool about in season 1 when it shows the girls after, like, as adults for the first time, and then you see Jinx is technically living with Silco, the villain. He's a crime lord who sells drugs. And
he's become her surrogate father.
Yeah, what's kind of weird about that, but he tells her she's perfect that he instills in her the words like, you're perfect, you shouldn't change, I like the way you are. Even though she's broken and crazy and is a danger to him, like, she can kill him if she wanted. Like, that's how messed up she is, because she wouldn't know. It would be impulsive for her. But he still tells her, like, the last thing he says as she's dying, like, she accidentally shoots him. He's dying, and his dying words, usually people on their deathbed will say something like, I need to get something out before I
I need to get something off my chest.
They compel the truth of how they actually feel, and the last thing he says is, you're perfect.
You're perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't change who you are.
Well, and I think it's interesting that...
He's a killer.
With his character, you don't really know what to think of him in season 1, and I thought season 2 did a really good job of fleshing out his character when you get the flashback to how both Silco and Vander, who loved each other like brothers and then, ended up kind of killing each other in a way, but that they were both friends with the mom, and the mom tells them that she's pregnant with Vi before she tells her own husband. And
in that, their friends.
They all grew up together in the underside. And I think it's interesting because the mom, when she says, I'm knocked up, they both stop what they're doing and they both are attentive to her.
Woman.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because it's like, okay, you're going through something, I get it. So it's like Silco had that relationship with the mother,
right?
And
they both did.
They both did. They both loved the mother, and each of them raised her daughters in a sense.
Right. They weren't her father. Her father was
Connell. No, her father was.
He was a minor.
Minor.
They were all minors. But they were her friends before she got married or whatever.
Yeah. And what I think is so interesting is when Silco tells her she's perfect, he has to do this very painful thing where there's a needle that goes into his retina because the water he was in was toxic. And it's the only way to keep his blood from poisoning himself. And it's Jinx he always gives it to.
Yeah, he does the injection.
He wants her to do it. And it's painful and it's intimate. And it's like the most vulnerable he is. She has to stab this thing in his eye. And even when she's like in a manic episode and she's like, I don't know if I can trust you, he still gives her the needle. To do it. There are these little tells in his personality where it's like, he's ruthless. Yeah, he's running the underworld. And when he's gone, there's a vacuum. But at the same time, there is this other side to him. And I find that interesting about Silco's character. But I liked what you said, Chelsea, where it's all about he constantly edifies her. He constantly affirms her.
That's what's curious about him, because it's like he is a bad guy.
Yes.
Okay, but
he's running drugs.
But they make sure in the show that like his past, like he's been through pain. We're all been through some. Yeah. And in that case, it was his own brother trying to kill him because his brother had rage issues.
Well, and I think what's so interesting is the way they tried to kill him was to drown him in this toxic water. And when his eye got stabbed, he was able to fake death, get out of it. But then there's this scene in season 1 where he almost, it's like a baptism. You die, you resurrect.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
And there's a couple
about
times they mention that, like it was my resurrection. I did things like
later,
that so
Silco
much.
does it to Jinx, like,
and
oh, this
he
is
does
how
it to
I got
Jinx.
reborn. And
well, he also, I think, is doing that so she can have something to hold on.
Right,
to.
it was his way
it's
to move
for
on.
her benefit, not his.
Right.
And I feel like if he was just this cold-hearted killer, he wouldn't care about her feelings. But he cares about her feelings at every turn.
And that's where I'm questioning. I'm like, wait, is it just manipulation though? Because she doesn't want to do what he tells her he needs her to do. Because she says, "Oh, I can't. I'm too overwhelmed." So he is like, is all the stuff he says and do just manipulation? But you weren't in here, but on his deathbed, he does love her because he's like, "No, you're perfect. I want you to know that before I die.
Yeah.
Even though you did this."
Well, he also knows she struggles with identity because she's been through all this crap.
Well, she never healed from the trauma.
She's
still stuck in the
She's
trauma.
still like,
and of course he's a bad guy, but also he doesn't know how to handle this with her. And so it's like a tragedy, but it all turns out okay with her, even through the tribulations. And it's cool because with her arc, and this is something I mentioned, I actually, side note, I had to do a training this semester for work. And of course, they have one in there about gender identity and all this kind of stuff.
Because people are still searching.
Yeah, and that's what I brought up is people are searching, but I think some of the best ways to kind of find yourself or dealing with your identity is actually investing in other people.
Yes.
And getting out of your comfort zone with that, because fellowship really does bring that, really does strengthen you. Even if you're introverted, it does strengthen you a lot. That's why even Christian people are out there and they say, I'm out of this church. I don't want to be part of church. Yeah. Fellowships, we are the church for a reason. Yeah. And so I kind of put in my training, I said, investing in other people is really important. And we get that in season 2 with her taking care of Isha, who's this mute little girl. Yeah, and she looks up to her.
She's from the Explorers Guild, by the way.
Okay, yeah. And she, I don't know what that is, but she looks up to her and she's like, "Oh, you're so cool."
Well, she kind of gave her a reason to live.
And she gave She gave her another reason to live.
Because Silco just died.
Exactly.
Yeah, you learn that Jinx for a long time has been wanting to end her own life.
Yeah.
But that kind of got put on hold when Isha came into the play because she didn't know what she wanted. Jinx didn't know what she wanted to do anymore. She was wandering the streets, just kind of letting things happen. And then Isha came in to her life and she was like, okay, let's have fun with the kid.
And the way in which Isha comes into her life is she's being chased by these really bad, sinister gentlemen from one of the guilds, and I forget which one it is.
They're
it's the one with the mouths and the metal.
Yeah, they're the augmentation guys. Their gang specializes in like the business of the underworld.
Yeah.
So they're all extremely wealthy, and wealth is if you pay attention, they all have numbers on their foreheads.
Yes.
Like they're an object.
Yeah, like that's the level in their organization. They're chasing her down because she's stolen something, or they're trying to get her. And
we don't know
Jinx
why
is just wandering, and Isha falls right on top of her.
Yeah.
And later, and Jinx kills when her hood comes back and they see that it's Jinx. She kills them all in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And she says, "You ever feel that buzzing behind your head?" She's like, "That's the best, right in your eyes. Like everything just might end at any moment." And she goes, "That's the best feeling in the world."
Right. That's what she's dealing with.
That's what she's dealing with. And what's interesting is she even tells Isha later, and Isha can't talk, but she can understand her. She says, "You woke up parts of me that in my brain." And, she's still wrestling with the voices, but after Isha's in her life, it gives her an opportunity to heal, because there's post-traumatic stress that stops you in your tracks. That can be a disorder. But then there's post-traumatic progression, which is kind of what Vi did, where instead of it stopping you and you can't go forward, you use it as a positive force. And Vi's like, I'm stuck in this prison. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get out of here. Yeah. I'm going to get back. And
she's
I'm
like,
going to take out the person who killed Vander. And so she kind of uses post-traumatic progression. She uses the stuff she's been through to spur her forward, and Jinx finally gets there.
So that's another way they're polar opposites.
Yeah.
So where I want to take this next is let's dive into Vi.
Okay.
And then we'll go into that. We'll go into something else after that. So Vi, what are our thoughts on her? We have sister. Jinx, the younger sister, Vi, the older sister. They are siblings, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the flash before season 2, people thought that Jinx was adopted, but she's not. In the flashbacks, when they're trying to make Vander human again, he's remembering their mother, and there's a shot of her pregnant, and Vi is touching her tummy.
You remind me of Beauty and the Beast. Well, just Vander singing that. Be human again.
Oh,
no, thank you. There's enough music in Arcane. Thank you.
We don't need it anymore.
I don't need any more.
I wanted to mention that later.
We'll get into that. But Vi, what do we think of her?
Tough.
Her journey?
I feel
she's a big,
she's a
beautiful
badass.
pink lady.
I feel like whereas Jinx is signified by that color of blue, which is very water-like, it's very fluid, it's very moody, it's very unstable. You don't know which way it's going to go next. Vi is the opposite. She's a fire kind of sign.
Right. She has to keep moving.
She has to keep moving. There is something that drives her. And when we see her at her lowest point, after losing Caitlyn, after
she
suffering
goes full,
this loss.
like grunge emo.
Yeah, she goes grunge
That's
emo
a really cool
and,
montage of her fighting in the pit.
Well, and how she has nothing to live for. She has nothing to live for.
Right.
She's at her lowest point. And it's funny because it's Jinx. Even the soldier, and I forget what his name is, the one that finds her in the street and they drink.
Morris,
yeah.
I think he's. I don't know this for sure. I think he's a playable character.
I'm pretty sure he probably is, but even he,
I know,
every night he helps her
guy.
back to her room so she doesn't get hurt. Nobody steals from her.
Meme?
Yeah, this is the meme here. Chelsea sent
I
this
said
to
that
me.
to Jake.
Yes, I know.
It's like she looks fine after all these traumatic events. It's like 1 month in a lesbian relationship.
she's all dark.
And that's one of the jokes about a lesbian relationship. There's always an
She's
ex.
a stereotypical
Because there's
lesbian.
because there's not many lesbians.
No,
so
I know,
when you go
I
back
know.
to visit your person, you're gonna meet their exes.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about her character is she's very strong. She's very tough.
Yeah, physically.
But I love but I love what Vander tells her. He goes, you can't punch your way out of every situation.
Oh yeah,
And
he's
that's
such a good dad.
That's how. Well, he has that spirit of a father that wants to father her and put her in the right direction because he knows I'm not always going to be here for these kids. And I think what's interesting is she does. That's. I mean, when she loses everything and she's at her lowest point, basically she tries to punch her way out of the situation. I'll just go do fights for money, and that's what I'll do. And the problem is that's not going to satisfy you because you just became Jinx and didn't deal with your trauma. And it's funny how they switch places. Isha makes Jinx more like Vi, and Vi becomes more like Jinx when she doesn't have any.
Well,
But
also you notice after Jinx adopted Isha, she started acting normal.
yes,
Like she wasn't just crazy. Like in season 1, she is crazy, and then in season 2, suddenly she's acting kind of normal. Like she's acting depressed in ways that she should be. She's talking normally, she's talking less to invisible people. They're still there, but she's talking less out loud to them.
Well, and I also think, I remember I had a student one time whose husband was killed in front of her. A car hit him in front of their house. And she was writing about something in her essay, and she was an older lady at the time. She was in her 40s, 50s. And she said, that happened 20 years ago. My son's 17 now. And she goes, my son was 5 days old when that happened. And I asked her, I said, so what did you do to get past it? She goes, I volunteered in hospitals in the children's burn ward.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I would read stories to these kids that were just in this excruciating pain. And I looked at what they were going through and what I was going through. And what got me through it was realizing there are other people that are hurting besides myself. And she's like, that's how I got past the trauma. And it was ironic because she hadn't married anyone since her husband died. And she met someone in one of the classes at UVA and they were getting married that semester.
Oh, cool.
So it was just kind of neat. She was going on with her life, but she goes, when you can do things that make you forget your own hurt and you help other people.
That's the autopilot thing about us. We immediately forget that it's not all about us.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when you get stuck in that grief or that sadness or that depression, you really are stuck because it's really narcissistic. It's all about you. You're just grieving. It's all about me. And it's okay to have a season. Just don't stay in that season.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I brought up the thing with Jinx, because I think you could tie it to a commentary on modern society and why and how to deal with grief or how to process things, especially what would affect your identity, because it is a loss of a parental figure from these girls. And at the end of episode 3 in the season 1, that triggers all of this. We have the setup and we see who they are as kids. And you see these tendencies like, man, this could end badly, and you see it end badly. And it's the worst possible outcome for them. But then to see their journey after that is even more fascinating.
Yeah.
Because after we watched the first 3 episodes, when you guys first showed it to me, I was like, well, wait, they're all older? Well, I kind of want to see them as kids, like go through, more adventures. But there's a reason for it all. So.
Well, and I think with Jinx, it's so neat because she becomes a parent in a sense.
Yeah.
And that's what saves her, having this other person.
It gave her something to live for.
It gave her purpose. And even after Isha's gone, she's still dealing with the voices. She's still dealing with the grief. But she's in a way better place than she was in season 1.
When Isha dies, like you see the montage of like them playing
the
together.
sisterhood that they've had. Yeah.
It's like,
well, and it's interesting. The reason Isha dies is she realizes nobody's going to stop this creature. He's going to kill the people I love. This is my new family. And she's like, if there's something that needs to be paid, let me pay it.
And she probably knew that Vi or Jinx would never do it.
Well, and
because they believed he could still
when
be
you
saved,
look at it,
so.
Jinx is wounded and she's not moving and Vander's moving towards her. And I think
he's in a rage.
And
Isha's
response, I think it was the episode before that, like they're having this meeting and somebody comes in and it's that big guy and Bessa hires. And, and Isha just jumps right on his head. She goes for the biggest, baddest dude.
He was awesome.
And she's like, I'm going to beat him with this little tiny kid.
And then it zooms in on his face and he's like unfazed and she's like punching him.
Yeah, I know. Well, but that's it. She takes on this monster that nobody else can stop because that's their dad.
Yeah.
And he's
no
just
one could do it.
Yeah, and so she does it, and that wink she gives Jinx as she's going to shoot him, and it's going to end her life in this explosion. It's kind of like, well, and she closes her eyes, like she's ready for it. Yeah. She's at peace. Like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go down fighting.
And what? She's like 6 or 7? She's
a
really little kid.
But I think it's so beautiful. It's because she found that love and she found that belonging and she found purpose in a family. And I liked what you said earlier, Jake, when you were like, sometimes, it's about helping other people. And I feel like that's because in this life, we're not meant to do it alone. We're meant for fellowship. We're meant for discipleship. We're not meant to do it by ourselves. I mean, God can help you, but you need to find your worth in relationship to other people within, and from a Christian perspective, within God's kingdom.
Yeah, within God's kingdom.
Yeah, and it's like the body of Christ. I mean, there's butts in the body of Christ, but we all need them. It's like, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
All right, so I think with Vi, the only thing I would say for her is, she has this headstrong character, but headstrong characterization, but she's the leader of it all. And so there's a reason why she's put in the position she's in. And she's far, at least to me, a little less interesting than Jinx. And we get more development, I would argue, with Jinx anyway, especially in the alternate universe episode.
Oh, gosh. So good.
Which I do want to have a full discussion on that just toward the end. But
I think maybe we should do that next.
Maybe do a mini-sode of Snarp Fangle for it.
No, we're just going all
okay.
But
you need to break it up.
Next,
along that, just to what you said, I think it's interesting because both of them step into leadership roles, but in different positions.
Yeah.
Vi is filling Vander's empty seat and Jinx is filling Vander's empty throne.
Yeah.
And they both kind of step into those leaders. Like both of these girls that we've watched from the beginning, from this tragic beginning, they're the impotence for why this happens.
Yeah.
They're what moves the story forward. And I feel like both of them have their importances. Both of them have their flaws, but it's interesting how they overcome those flaws. Yeah.
I would cap it with saying that you had I can't remember who said it, but the best descriptor of the show was if Luke and Leia were enemies.
If they had grown up on opposite sides.
Yeah, if they were on opposite sides. That would be
interesting.
I want a Star Wars what if, or if that's cool. Like
Disney should totally
Luke
do
goes
that.
With
the dark side.
The dark side. And
Leia's raised
with
in
the
the light.
Republic.
Disney Plus should totally do that. They should have the What If Marvel's team do it. But Star Wars.
Yeah.
They did some great work. Okay.
All right, let's get into, and this could lead us into other characters as well. No, I want to go and we can do that if you want.
Yeah, I think
you guys want to do favorite characters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You're like, characters. I want to talk about all the philosophical things.
Well, I
wanted to and I'm like, I just want to talk about why I like
Let's do the favorite characters.
Chelsea, you start us out. Who is your favorite character and why?
Well, I have a couple.
While you do that, I'm going to go grab my other laptop because this
is it dying? It's dying. Okay, go for it.
Wait a minute. Is it dying?
I have my other. I'll be back.
Okay.
All right, Chelsea. What is your favorite character and why?
I have a couple. So before I even knew they were making a show, it was probably Echo, who's in Arcane right now. Because I was like, oh, that's cool. You can go back 10 seconds in the fight. That's awesome. He had a really weird mohawk. It was a literal like straight mohawk in the game. It was
nice.
That looks weird, but then I love the way they changed it in the show.
Yeah,
it was,
they
dreads.
did a good job with his white dreads. I really like them.
He's really cool in the show. I already said like Blaine was like, oh, he's my homeboy. He's like the truest hero in the whole show.
Yeah.
He has no evil motivations. Everybody else has something they want to gain from it.
I like that, Chelsea. I think Echo, he's my favorite. Him and Jace are my favorite. And I think what makes me like them both is different. Like I like Jace because he's like that friend that never gives up on Victor, no matter how bad it looks.
That was kind of cool.
And
some would say they're in love.
Yeah, well, and I would disagree with that because I think their last thing would have ended with a kiss, and I don't feel like there's any,
Guys don't kiss each other.
Well,
that's true. That's gay.
There were displays of affection, but they weren't romantic.
No, they weren't. And I'm glad you brought that up.
I just say that's one of my favorite characters is Jace.
Did you see the voice actor of Victor?
Yes.
He's like JV or not JV.
Yeah, I know.
It was so funny.
Well, and what I think is so interesting is it's like Jace starts out with a lot of political ambition. He starts out with a lot of
gets it too.
Well, and he understands the bad side of politics. He's one of.
Okay.
And I think my reasons for liking Jace is he starts out as this really ambitious person. You think, oh, you're going to get manipulated. You're going to do whatever you need to go to the top.
It was like, oh, these people are playing.
And then when he sees what the world becomes, and Victor has that line that says, I found perfection, but perfection is lonely. Mm-hmm. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
And he sends him back
Jace
to change
says in the end when they're in the Arcane world or whatever, he looks at himself and he says, it's our imperfections that make us strong. I can't remember.
What I think is so beautiful is that's Victor, the one who's lame that ends up getting all this power.
Yeah,
it's
he's
his
my other
fear. He has been alone his whole life. That scene as a kid where he's limping and he's running and he's trying to keep up and he can't keep up.
He's trying to keep with this toy boat down this thing and he can't even keep up with that. He's
been alone his entire life. And you see Jace and you're like, this guy's just going to be a jerk to him. He's just using him. And what you see is like this beautiful familial affection towards the end of his life. And in the end of his life, he's like, let me go make this right. I'm going to go in the Arcane. I'm going to sacrifice myself. And Jace stays.
Yeah.
And they don't kiss.
He gives him a hug and
but they embrace. They give him hugs.
Victor
like
says,
a family
why
member.
did you stick with me even after all I've done? And Jace gives him a hug and he said, I told you. I was with you through this all to the end, And
that's like, no greater life has anyone that lays down his life for his brother. Greater love has anyone had. And I really like that about Jace's character because they took him in another direction and I did not expect it to go
your
there.
expectations are like, oh, this is going to be like the self-absorbed guy, because in the lore of the game, he is like cartoonishly self-absorbed.
Yes,
he's like my
he's the frat bro.
Are better.
Let's be honest, he's a frat bro.
Yeah.
Who's out to
he's
score.
Got a best
and that's
friend
basically
that does all the homework.
He doesn't a nerd friend that's doing all the homework. He just wants to score with girls, and that's really why he's involved in it.
He's like really naive.
He's very naive.
About
what I think about his character is when he comes back from the future and you watch him struggle, and you watch the weeks or the months or however long he was there. He realizes
he had to go through. By the way,
he had to go through. You realize like what the stakes are, and it carries him right to the end because like he realizes if I have to die, I'm going to change this. Mm-hmm. And when he has the opportunity, because like Victor makes it so he can escape, and he stays with
everything in that world. He saw a future where everything was destroyed. Victor was watching him the whole time.
Yeah.
And like those mechanical things chasing him. And then you're like, oh crap, what is that? But it was Victor trying to get him towards that top of that hill. And then he tripped.
You need to get out of the valley biblically and go to the mountaintop. That's what he did. And, because on the mountaintop is where you meet God.
Friggin' Victor looking like Jesus on that.
Victor looking like Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus, Victor.
I want to talk about that too.
I have some interesting lore about that too.
Okay. So anyway, that I think is one of my characters, but the other character.
So Jace, and then Echo.
And the second character, my favorite character is Echo.
Oh, definitely Echo.
And I loved what you said, Chelsea, because he really has nothing to gain other than helping other people.
Yeah, Echo.
And Echo really is one of these kids.
He has no evil motivation.
He has no ulterior motivations, nothing selfish. He's just doing it because it's right.
I think a lot of it has to do with the guy who raised him, Benzo.
Yes.
And
I love Benzo.
I forgot that I rewatched it. I totally forgot when Vi is in that basement, they shove her in that basement to keep whatever is just killing the guys outside. And then the person who opens the door is little Echo, and he's crying, and he's like, I saw the whole thing. And Benzo was the first to get killed by his father,
heavy, pretty much.
It was sad. And then in the alternate universe, when he sees him again, the first thing he does is hug him, and Benzo's like, hey, you're getting too wishy. And then he's like, oh, something's wrong, and then he gives him a hug.
Well, and in that basement, she goes forward when he's crying and gives him a hug and tells him it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
because he's her family too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what I like about Echo, I liked what you said, Chelsea. Like he doesn't have any motives. But he also reminds me of like a Peter Parker or a Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Yeah, he's too good.
He's got so much heart. And you realize the heart is what pushes this kid forward.
Yeah, it had to be him to do the final act to
well, that
save
he couldn't see that
everyone.
possibility.
Yeah,
even like
it's
this,
not
I
just
didn't
the
see
fact
this
that he's the only one with this power; it's that he could be the only one to be trusted with that power to not use it.
Well,
for
what is it they
selfish
say?
gains
The
or
best
whatever.
people who should have power are the ones that don't want it,
Right?
because
That's
they
true.
have. Or what does he say in Captain America? The Doctor tells him because a weak man knows the value of that weakness, and he knows compassion. And I really think compassion is what spurs Echo forward. But yeah, he would be my second favorite character.
And then I love Victor. I mean, Victor is a cutie.
Such an interesting.
And his story is amazing. But after watching the show, I didn't really care about Singe too much. He was kind of cool as a character before the show.
His motivations
as a
are
League of Legends
interesting.
character, okay, cool, a mad scientist or whatever. But then after the show, the way they changed Singe's story, I was like, oh my gosh, I love him. He's so cool.
Was it his story did not include his daughter?
He's two characters put into one in the show.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was mad scientist originally. And then there's Oriana, his daughter.
Oh,
They don't say her name in the show, but her father in the original lore was a clockmaker. And she got terminally ill from the air down below.
Oh.
So slowly, piece by piece, they were replacing her organs, her limbs with clockwork parts. And the last thing that was alive is her heart. So her father's heart gets terminally ill. So she decides to take it upon herself to give him the last piece of organic that she has. And she is now a clockwork woman that you could play in the game.
Oh,
well, in this, when you reveal that Singe has a daughter and he's walking into that secret room with Mbessa and Kate behind him, Kate says his real name. She's like, I know who you really are, Dr. Revik. You're a monster. And I was like, oh, crap. So they made Singe and this mysterious doctor who we've never seen the same guy. It gave him a daughter. So now he has motivation to do what he does, even though it's evil.
In the first season, I thought that was interesting. His motivations, like when Jinx is injured on the bridge and Silco takes her to Singe and says, I want you to fix her. And he goes, it's going to be painful. Yeah. And he goes, it doesn't matter, whatever it takes, as long as she lives. And you see him fill the syringe and you think, okay, he's going to put her out. And he injects Silco because he doesn't want a father to have to watch his daughter.
Right. And he said,
go through it.
Well, I don't know if she could take it. He's like, but can you? And it's like, oh.
Yeah. And it's the stuff they did with that story was so surprising. But like I said,
it shocked me.
There's stuff in that narration that really makes you want to find out what happens to these characters. Mm-hmm. So, what about you, Jake?
What about you, Jake?
I was rewatching some episodes from season 1. I really wanted to rewatch episode 7 of season 2, but I didn't get a chance. But I know what I feel about it, so we'll get to that soon. But I would have to say, first off, it was Vander. Obviously, Vander was like,
you like him? Yeah,
just because he's original.
Really? I don't know
dope.
Yeah, he's the original character.
That's cool. And the guy who plays him is really talented. And also, by the way, all the voice actors in this,
oh my gosh,
all character actors, all do video game stuff. They're very, very talented. Even Heimerdinger's
the execution
great.
of those performances.
The performances are great. Like the only big people in this are Ella Parnell, who wasn't big at the time.
No,
and Haley Steinfeld. And Haley Steinfeld was like the big person.
She's
at the time,
she's an celebrity.
Yeah, A-lister.
Yeah. I mean, it's also funny because she's also in Spider-Verse. So.
Yeah,
she
and it's also
it's
also hilarious because Ella Purnell can't get away from video game projects like this and Fallout.
She's in Fallout. Yeah,
yeah, it's just funny. But
did you know that Minnie Driver is LeBlanc, the Black Rose lady? I looked it up. She's the Shadow Lady, and I was like, "Wait!" I remember we were talking about the lady who plays her. I looked it up. I was like, "It's Minnie Driver! What the heck?"
And Minnie Driver was just the penguin in the Cape Crusader.
This actress right here, you know,
it went down.
It moved.
Oh. This voice actress right here, Minnie Driver.
No, not that.
Not
he showed us a golf club.
That was a dad joke.
Not a golf club.
Yeah, it's a dad joke. No, but I have to say, like, it's nice to hear her. It's nice to see people that are really in
Who's
like
Minnie
the A-list.
Driver right away?
She was in Good Will Hunting as a girlfriend.
Remember Me, where she has the heart surgery.
She was the one who had the heart.
Yeah,
Remember Me with David Duchovny.
Oh,
yeah. And
okay.
she's Jane in Tarzan.
Yeah, she's Jane in Tarzan.
And Phantom of the Opera is the prima donna.
Oh, that's Carlotta. She's Carlotta.
Oh.
No, but it's like we have to speak musicals. That's how our family operates.
crazy.
that many drivers in the show.
That's pretty
She's
cool.
also the penguin in the Cape Crusader on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, she is. Oh, that was
And
so
she,
cool.
they did a gender switch, and she is so cool.
so cool. Yeah.
She offs one of her sons.
Yeah,
It's really, penguin's
she's
like
a
a gangster in that.
She's
a
You know, but I have to
cool.
say, like, it's nice. Like, I did not know she was the black.
Yeah,
Nurse.
I looked it up today and I was like, what?
But anyway, I would say Vander. I would say
Such a good dad.
I love Heimerdinger, but I say my favorite.
Yeah,
best.
Heimerdinger
My
is surprising.
favorites. Man, I'm trying to think.
Well,
Like,
and
Echo's
Heimerdinger
great.
is like, I just wanna play my guitar. I'm in no hurry to go anywhere. I've lived so long.
Heimerdinger was there at the beginning of Piltover. He's 300 years
Yeah,
old.
he's like
Yeah.
The
centuries
city
old.
is 200, so he's 100 years older. And he founded the academy, and he's the head dean there. And Singe used to be a professor. They had conflicting morals, so Singe
Oh,
ideology.
interesting. I would probably say Silk. Like, if I were actually being serious, Silco's number one, and then Jason
Interesting.
Victor. Jason Victor, I would say.
as
And
a unit.
Just like
cool,
2 and 3.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love Jace. I love Victor.
Well, I love
Victor is
Warwick
such a
too.
cool-
I could not believe
yeah,
they put
Vander
Warwick in the
tons.
show.
Warwick is cool.
I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, I got a little write up about Victor and JC.
Okay.
Oh,
You
please
guys are
share it.
ready?
I like this.
All right, so controversial, but here we go.
Uh-oh.
Although I think you can kind of connect Victor to be a Christ-like figure, I don't think that's all entirely correct.
It's one interpretation.
I think when you look at him, he's a person who's being viewed as a savior, because I've seen this online, just moseying around. He's a savior to those who are in need, but the writer's intention is not to make him a Christ-like figure, I would argue, because looking at his character, especially season 2, it's clear to see that this character is taking advantage of the weak and the poor, and he's assimilating them and negating their free will.
Yeah,
I
agree.
There are some parallels, but
I
that
think-
would be my argument against it.
Interesting.
Is it a good thing?
Is it a good thing?
Well, I think it's less
Save
Christ.
humanity from the
Yes, less Christ.
It's less Christ and more cult.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
exactly what Victor has. He has a cult.
Yeah.
And I love the part where Jace is like, how am I dangerous that he kills that guy?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Sallow.
Yeah.
And then Sky, who they're watching, her and Victor are watching it from like the Arcane plane, and she's like, "Oh, poor Sallow."
Yeah.
Aw.
Well, also, I think the cool parallel you can tie between Jace and Victor is it's basically Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla kind of partnering together.
And then having their differences.
And having their differences. Edison's in the
that.
political kind of thing and the business kind of side, while Victor's a Nikola Tesla, but he gets overtaken by the desire for discovery.
Right.
And it's like,
Steve
Well,
Jobs
there's
versus
the
Bill,
drive for that is
basically.
his.
Yeah,
focus.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I
or
like that.
yeah, you could say it that way too. But I think it's really fascinating, especially like towards the end of the series where we get to see how that relationship between them ends and what it took to get there. I was like, oh,
Well,
it's so
there's
crazy.
You're like, well,
there's
how's it gonna end?
reconciliation and there's forgiveness.
Yes. And
And-
Jace loves him for who he is.
Yes.
And always
Right.
wants to include him in stuff and wants to save him. Like the first thing he says is like, and we'll get you a cure. And
Yeah.
we'll cure you.
Yeah.
You know, he
'Cause
cares for his
literally
well-being.
does care about it.
Yeah. Speaking he always seeks out for his well-being. But speaking of which, let's see, as a side note, I wrote here, what did I write here? Side note. What did Jake write? He said, Victor, after his transfiguration into the all-knowing AI man, reminds me of, Jack O'Connell's character from Sinners, which came out earlier this year. A little bit, like if you look at it, you know. Also, it's cool. I didn't know this, but when he transfigures into the robot in season 2,
Oh my god,
it
it's so
splits his face in half.
cool. Yeah, it does.
And the robot face is in the
It
middle,
makes
and
his
either side of
face-
his face is on either side.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
weird. I was like the
Interesting.
character
Like,
design's very
The redesign of
specific.
his like look in the game, like it's so
Oh.
perfect.
And the
like,
arms coming out of his back.
yeah, because originally,
Yeah.
because in the game, there's no like big story of him. He just he was obsessed with progression and the glorious
Technology.
evolution, because that's one of his quotes.
yeah.
And then when he
Oh,
said
that's
it in
true.
the when
Yeah,
he said it in
glorious
the show, people were like, "He said it. He said the thing."
Leonardo DiCaprio.
But yeah, he slowly replaces his body with parts, and he's like, "This is what man should be." And he's got like the arm. And I was showing Adelaide like clips of him after that arc ended, because it ended on a cliffhanger there.
Yeah.
And then the final arc that came out, and we see him, and I was like, "Oh, he looks amazing! He looks so cool. He's got the scarf. Oh,
No, the design was so unique on him.
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh."
The last thing I have about them is in episode 5, there's a moment where you have the dual storytelling of Victor's blood combining with the Hex tech, correlating with Jason Mel getting hanky-panky.
Oh my god.
It's weird at first,
that.
but if you look at it again, it's a really interesting parallel.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of sex scenes in media. They don't really have any purpose, but this one actually has a reason in the story as a parallel.
Yeah.
It's like Jace giving himself up to that life. But side note, when Mel wakes up after the whole scene, we cut to Jace sitting next to Victor's bed as he's in the hospital. Bros before
he left
hoes.
her. He left her.
He left her. Bros before hoes, man.
She woke up alone.
That's what it is.
Well, and I think that's what's so beautiful at the end of their story arc in the last episode is that Victor didn't want to be alone, and he tells Jace to go so he will have a life.
Yeah.
And Jace stays.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's one of these things like, you don't have to be alone. I'm here. Let's do this together. We started together. Let's end it together.
Are there any other comments you guys have about just certain characters or certain character moments?
So, a funny story when we were first watching season 1. So we got done with arc number 2. That was episode 6. And I was like, I gotta look stuff up. I feel like I need to know what's coming. I want to know.
I felt the
know
same
ahead of
way.
time.
I was like, I should know about the lore.
Yeah, and you don't have to. You don't have to.
No, it stands on its
It
own.
stays self-contained in the show, but there's a ton of like references and Easter eggs that you might know and stuff. And the one character, I went through like a whole bunch of different characters, and one I was like, ooh, a werewolf. Like, who's that? And it's Warwick. And the only thing about his backstory is that he was some thug who was kidnapped by Singed. And he had a high tolerance for pain, which they say it in the show about Vander.
Oh.
And
that's why he was a good boxer.
At the final episode 9 of season 1, it shows Singe like sitting there, like fixing his face because he got all messed up. And then he looks up and you see like the claw. And I was like, Alan, and Alan's like, oh, what? And I'm like, it's Warwick.
I can't talk. I'm so excited.
And they recreate his champion trailer in the show.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, sir.
And it's when he's following the blood trail that Singe leaves to the prison. It's not shot for shot, but it is like when he sees Jinx and he suddenly snaps out of it from being a monster.
Yeah, because he gets her
and
scent.
he realizes who she is. That's right from the champion trailer, like before the show
Wow.
even came out, and they honored that. But it means way more because now you know who it is.
Well, it's so much more complex when you realize the story of those two sisters
yeah,
and what they meant to him.
And Vander's history, which we're all kind of curious about, is revealed. And I wrote a comment from Adelie because she couldn't be here.
Yeah, go for
What
it.
was
She
her
said
comment?
when I asked her what her favorite character was, and then what her favorite scenes were in the show. She said one of her favorite scenes was Misfit Toys, which is I think episode 7, the beginning of episode 7.
Okay.
It's just that cool graffiti music video of the Firelights as like a gang.
Oh, the firelights with
Play
Echo.
with the Misfits.
So
And
much fun.
then she said it was Remember Me when they're delving into Vander's mind and it's all watercolors and you're singing. And that's where I think the first time I cried in the show. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well,
And
and
then her favorite character was Mbessa.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
And
The
she
big.
said-
What did she say?
said-
What did she say?
She says it was a hard toss-up between Mbessa and Mel. And she said her
Mel's
claw-
really cool, to be fair.
Oh, she's
And
so
Mel's
super cool.
story and the way she ends the
both
story is
original
good.
characters to the show.
Wow.
And she said Arcane,
Really? And Bessa's not a character, a champion in the
I mean,
game?
now she is, but not until the
Before
show.
they just introduced her because of
Now
the
Mel is
season
going to be
2.
part of the
Dang,
yeah, but
interesting.
they were original to the show. And
Now I should play the game.
Adelaide says Arcane is full of female characters that are not annoying.
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
agree. That's
Yeah.
a very
Especially
good
like
point.
the closest would probably be Caitlyn because we're like, oh man,
Oh, God,
she's the
Caitlyn's
rich
so insufferable
girl
sometimes,
who
you know.
yeah.
Well, and she's
but you
so
expect her
easily
to go that way.
manipulated, but she is on their side in the end.
Yeah.
And well,
But that comes with her lifestyle of being entitled.
Entitled.
And wealthy. You can't help but have that personality.
well, and I
type.
think what's so beautiful about that show is it's all these people from the bottom that actually save it.
Mm.
It's all these people that society has thrown away. You know, it's kind of like
well,
ninja-
yeah, it's kind of all like the top and the bottom. Top is always trying to keep the bottom under the ground and stuff like that.
And the bottom's like, we can only take so much of this. There's only so many of us can die. But I think it reminds me of Ninja Turtles in a way, which I think is a metaphor for gangs. That there are these kids that got thrown into the sewer.
on the street.
I was raised on the streets, you know,
Raised
but
in
it
the
was,
sewers.
but it's one of those things that society threw them away and yet they rise up and they protect society, all people of society.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about Mbessa and the wolf, like her
Oh,
relationship.
the wolf and
with
the fox?
wolf.
Yeah.
So, for context, the wolf, what she's referring to is their, what is it, Grim Reaper. And in
their culture.
in the majority of the parts of Runeterra, which is the world that Arcane comes from, it's the Earth. A big majority of their version of the Angel of Death is called the Wolf and the Lamb. They're a playable character. And what they do is if someone is about to die, they visit them. And if you accept your death willingly, the lamb gives you a quick and painless end.
Oh, okay.
If
so it's
you
like a reward.
refuse death, the wolf hunts you down and gives you a painful, long, stretched out in your mind and stuff.
Interesting.
In the music video for Ambessa that came out after the show, after season 1, before season 2.
There's a music video?
I showed it to you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it's sung by Cheryl Lee Ralph.
Yeah.
Did you watch
Community?
No. Abbott Elementary.
Abbott Elementary. She's
But
a
she's
black
a singer
teacher.
in real life.
She's a great
I didn't know she sang.
Oh my gosh. I showed you the music video. She sounds amazing. We thought it was the lady who played Ambessa. This
is
not.
the chick who's in The Good Place, right?
No. Abbott Elementary, the
Abbott
school
Elementary.
where
That's
the
the one
teachers
she's
are
in.
way
That's
too
what a bunch of
optimistic.
That's the one she's in.
So she sings the song in that.
Yeah.
In that music video, Ambessa is dying, and a wolf shows up, and you're like, "Oh, is this wolf gonna eat her?" And then she starts tripping out, and she goes into like a spirit realm, and she views her whole life flashing before her, and she keeps seeing the wolf in different places, and you're like, "Okay, is she gonna accept her death, or is she gonna refuse it?"
I didn't know
And
that.
at first, you look like she's going to accept it in that music video. You can look up why and everything in the music video itself, but then it's revealed at the end of the music video that she's pregnant with Mel. Mel has
you did show me that.
Mel inherited her father's mage powers. And for a flash of a second, the baby's eyes in her belly open up and they glow. And suddenly Ambessa wakes up on the battlefield and she takes the arrow out and the wolf walks away.
Yeah.
So her whole life she's been avoiding the wolf. And she kind of made a vow to herself to stay away from it and stuff. And because she defied death, she has faced death in horrible ways her whole life. Her grandfather died and didn't give her her inheritance. Spoilers for the book, I guess. Her husband dies.
Yep.
Her lover dies, who was Mel's father, is someone separate from Kino. Her she has to kill members of her own family
to keep power.
Her power and secret safe and stuff. And then let's see, who else died? Oh, and then her son Kino died, and that was a great tragedy. And that was the part where she starts crying in the show because she said, "How dare you speak about
your
like?"
brother.
Because Mel blames her for killing Kino or Kino's death.
Yeah,
and she said, "How dare you? He was my heart and my life and stuff." She said, "I hope you never have to decide to save one child over another." She's like, "But it didn't matter anyway because he was killed by the Black Rose." So then Mel kills her, or not kills her. The Black Rose kills her. Mel saves her. And then when she comes out of the realm of the Black Rose, where it's like manipulating her, she's dying, and she tells Mel, "You were the wolf. Like you were
I know.
finally,
and that makes that scene.
That's so messed
my
up.
end."
That's
well,
crazy.
and I think it's so interesting. She's taken down by both her daughter and Caitlin, the woman she trained to take over, or puppeter, or whatever you want to say. I think it's so interesting that it's like, those people that want power really aren't the ones that should get it.
Yeah.
And they always have ulterior motives.
Yeah. I also have just interesting thoughts about Heimerdinger and Mel. We don't have to hear them though if you don't want to.
Okay.
Read the book. It explains who Mel's dad is.
Do you want to go to the alternate episode?
And maybe one more thing, and then that.
Okay.
I would say when she first popped on screen, I can't remember. I think David was watching.
He was watching
Arcane with us.
Oh wait, you told this in the rap episode.
Oh yeah, the big Dami mommy.
Yeah,
that's what we call him, boss.
And then he asked
that's a
at
big
church,
Dami mommy.
"Oh, your Dami mommy show.
Your big Dami mommy show." She's like, "She is. She is."
And then David's like, "And all of your brothers and sisters said you would say that."
Yes,
and she's like, "I hate you."
That was so great. Oh,
it was awesome.
Oh man.
Let's see, where do I want to take this? I just briefly want to touch on the art and the art direction and the style.
The art. Just watching it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Amazing direction. But also it kind of reminds me, because maybe it's French, but it reminds me of the Canadian French shows produced on Toon Disney and Jetix growing up, like Dragon Booster and Nerdcore stuff especially.
Yeah.
The style kind of reminds me that a little bit.
Well, it's cell shading.
Yeah, cell shading.
Yeah,
I think
they're
that's
all-
probably
it's all
what
the
makes
same.
me think of
Yeah.
that because they're all
Except
cell
this has
shaded.
textures and lighting and
Yeah, and a ton of 2D
stuff they couldn't
art,
afford back in the
which
day.
is so cool, especially season 2 with all the music video montage stuff they
Oh,
do.
Dude,
So
like whoever
cool.
decided to do that as a
Oh, they had the
choice-
sauce, man. They were like, I'm gonna do this.
Dude, the music itself
cooked, as the
is
kids
a
say
character
nowadays.
in the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
It works alongside the characters.
That's why I said the first season, all I would do is listen to the soundtrack and I would just think about the characters and their actions.
Yeah.
And, like
they
you said,
do,
it is a
like-
character. It's kind of like in Batman, Gotham City is a character. She's the
Yeah.
woman he's always trying to save.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the same thing. Like the music is a character in this.
Yeah, but
so like you'd have to watch it to understand it though. Like why?
yeah, but like the music. We can touch on that too. What's your favorite guys' songs?
Oh,
in
I
this?
put on the
Because
Adelaide
man,
said-
you
oh, I
got
already said
probably
that.
the whole list engine memorized.
I don't know if I could pick a favorite.
top 3.
Season 1, Dynasties and Dystopias.
Okay,
Season 2, I really like Heavy as the Head.
that's really good.
Heavy's the crown.
Because it's Heavy as the Crown because it's like if you want this power, it's your burden. It's not a reward.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
is a burden. And that's kind of what
Also-
Shakespeare explores in all of his histories, that it's like, it's a hollow crown. There's nothing to fill it.
And I like it better than the Linkin Park version, which
Yeah.
I mean that's a rock version, they're rock band, but
yeah.
it's the same girl singing, but it's like really quiet and really like, oh no, something foreboding's gonna happen, but she's really
Mhm.
quiet.
And I think
singing.
my third one would probably be a toss up between Come Play at the end or Sucker, where Jinx is walking
Get your
through the
fingers out of
city
my
and
head.
she finally
Don't
meets
go
Isha.
sucker.
Yeah, you know,
I
it's
love
just-
that one.
Yeah, there's some the songs are their own characters
That's so cool.
and they're very
That's
good.
the
but
one.
yeah.
The
What
sucker one is where they're at, it shows like the crime lords at the table.
Well,
and
there's
showing
this
them each
vacuum.
of them die one by one, and
Yeah.
then suddenly the rest of them get worried.
Silco
like-
left a vacuum. His throne was empty. Who's gonna
Yeah.
fill it?
Yeah, and they all look at each other, and then they all jump for the
Yeah.
the chair. It's like, oh my god.
So Jake, what are your
Whatever. I think season 2 probably has my favorite songs in it, just because of the weird montages they would do.
And it was
they
part
did
of the
way more
storytelling.
than season 1.
It was
Yeah.
Yeah.
part of the storytelling. It wasn't background. It was a character. Like
Yeah.
yeah, Chelsea.
It was a storytelling moment. They could have done it in any kind of way. They could have done it in a brief dialogue. They could have done it in exposition,
Yeah,
but they took the time and spent time and
thousands
money.
of dollars.
Bro.
Yeah, way,
If not
so
more.
much money into those little parts. And the cool thing about it is it's mostly 2D animation with those songs incorporated.
Yeah,
And I just say whatever songs are incorporated with those, except for like the screamy punk ones,
CG
Yeah. I
think
with 2D
are my
overlay.
favorites.
Yeah.
I would say that.
What about you, Chelsea? Do you have favorite songs?
So I love Dynasties and Dystopias
In
where
the
they're on the
first
bridge
season.
and Echo and her are imagining themselves as kids again. And I think it's their first meeting since they were
Well,
kids.
it's the first time that they've faced each other since
Yeah.
everything happened and everybody died.
Yeah.
and
like they
They
just
kind of look like I really have to fight
yeah,
this
I think
person. I really have to
I
fight
think
this
it's really
person.
her seeing it as that
Oh,
and not him.
oh, the song from season 1 during the bridge fight. as
That's
well, so-
Dynasties
That's what
and
we're
That's
talking about.
Dystopias.
Dynasties?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
one.
and I think like what's so cool is he has the time thing.
Yeah,
Although-
and
Yep.
so he doesn't have it yet.
He
in
doesn't have it
season
yet, but
one,
he has
but
the
it's
watch.
like used as like
Yeah,
a
that's a good
metaphor.
point.
And
yeah.
wasn't the watch in the series? It was it Benzo's?
Oh, it might have been.
It
I
might
think
have been.
I'd
because
have
he
to
was
go back
a
and look at
British
that.
guy, and
Yeah.
that was the only memento he had. Because I think he's holding it when he gives Vi a hug and says
yeah.
he's gone.
Mhm.
And I think it's so funny that is a huge part of his story arc too.
Mm.
But I have to say, like that scene on the bridge with their children, and then he has the opportunity to kill her, and he can't kill her
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's like this is someone I used to
Right?
play
How
with.
could you?
Yeah,
She tries to blow them both up anyway.
yeah, I know, but it's just it's
Um,
interesting.
That's-
Probably the I can't remember the name of that song where the where Smeech and them are fighting.
Oh, it's an Indian singer.
I can't remember.
India.
But
Vi and fighting the one.
no, Savika.
No, where
in
Savika
season
gets
2
the arm
fighting
that
saves
Jinx made for her.
from the
in the bar. In the bar.
No. In season 2, it's where Jinx makes her that arm,
Oh.
and she has
Yeah.
to pull it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. While you guys look that
Hang
up,
on,
I
I'm
want
looking
to
up really
say,
quick what it's called. Oh, so the guy they're fighting, he's one of the crime lords.
yeah,
He's a Yordle, which is what
What's
Heimerdinger's
his name?
race is.
Swatch or something?
Smeech.
Smeech,
His name is
that's
Smeech.
it.
His body tells a story because Yordles are tiny creatures, right? But he used chemtech and augments on himself to make him taller and a predator.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy's
and
wacky.
what's crazy is that Yordles are magical
So
creatures.
creepy.
They're all about whimsy and intrigue and like, oh, let's enlighten people. And he's
he's
the
the
opposite. He's like a
opposite.
gremlin, and he
yeah.
like wants to kill people.
Oh.
And so during that
song.
whole scene when she's like pulling it and it's
song
it's
is
running
Renegade,
through like a
We
slot
Never
machine
Run.
on her arm. What's the
What was
song?
it?
Song Renegade, We Never Won by Raja Kamun.
Yeah, that was a
Kamun?
sick song.
Kamun.
That was sick.
And then the
yeah.
other song I really liked, just because he's a personal favorite, like Japanese artist of mine, is You're a Snake, I think it's called, from season 1. And
Oh,
they're
You're a Snake. You're a Snake.
It's
yeah.
Vi and Jace fighting the big daddy looking dudes.
Yeah,
in that factory for the first
Oh
time.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
dude, that's
It's
so
like, You're a
dope.
snake. You're a snake.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
So that artist is Miyavi.
Snakes.
And do you remember the anime we watched called ID Invaded? And I said it was basically Inception, the anime.
Yep.
He did all the music for that one.
Oh, that's dope.
And he's in Arcane
That show's cool.
as the guy with the brass jaw, the Asian dude who wants to kill
nice.
Silco.
Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
And then
the one that he puts in his
Savika
place.
swipes her thing and kills him instead.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he got to be a character in it. And I was like, this is crazy.
Yo, Angie, ID Invade is an anime that's basically Inception,
Nice.
but
It's
every
so good.
episode
You
is
have to go into
different.
people's
Every
history,
episode's
yeah.
a different
It's a crime
criminal
Nice.
they go into. It's
like, what if,
Mysteries
in
are
the, what if in the
compelling.
universe
Like,
of
and
Inception,
you know what I mean? I don't watch a
they
whole lot of
used
anime.
their powers
But that one,
yeah, that was pretty good.
I do want to touch on the music a little bit, and as kind of a critique, because I think you can kind of like say you're enjoying the characters, the story, the writing, the pace of it, even the dialogue, all that stuff, the art style. I think the music can be the one thing that can stop somebody from liking the show like
You
as
think
much
so?
as a lot of like everybody else does, because I feel like
you mean for average Joes?
it's really, yes, I think it's really cool. It comes off pretentious, but I would argue it comes off pretentious in the best way. Kind of like stuff like The Last of Us Part 2 video game. 100% pretentious in a lot of different ways, but it's
You
very
are-
enjoyable in that sense of the way it's
It
written.
adds to the
And
story.
it adds to the story. And it comes from a place of genuineness of wanting to tell the story the way it's being portrayed right now. And they got the chance to say it.
Yeah.
Especially incorporating it with the music, which is definitely a big no-no in a lot of different Hollywood spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is utilized so well.
Like
in
some
it.
producer
done
would be
right.
like, oh
Done
no,
right.
we're focusing way
Like,
too much on this.
why are
you
we
know?
having every fight scene with the song? No, it's like, dude, this is the emotion that you're bringing into it, and that's why I love
and
the
of
French.
characters.
As much as I hate the French, I love the French. You know,
Well,
like,
heck-
they make great video
Dude,
games.
they're the only ones
make
who
great
respect
anime.
animation. America does not.
They make great Netflix series. You know,
Well, and I also
Anyway,
feel like
great
instead
music.
of, I think what you're talking about, Jake, is instead of,
I don't
oh
hate
my
the French,
gosh,
by the way.
here's this
It's a joke.
song and
It's
we got
a
to
joke.
animate stuff around it. It's like, no, that's exactly what happens. And here's our song. What are we going to do with it? And
Yeah, we got this Katy Perry
Dude,
song.
it's
Where are we
so
gonna put it in the
different.
chase scene?
Yeah, they always
you know?
go for like what's hit on the pop list in
yes,
America.
and
It's like,
and what
oh
I
my
think
God.
is so cool about that is it's not the song that's driving the story; it's the story that's moving forward, and the
Yeah.
song amplifies those emotions,
Yep.
those themes, those narrations, the characterization. Like that whole that one song where they're fighting in the alley with Smeech and Savika gets the arm. It's all about her acclimatizing and working with Jinx for the first time.
Yeah, it's like her third arm or
And
something.
that it's like they were at loggerheads through like all of season 1.
yeah.
She tied her up, she drugged her, and then Jinx always came out on top. And then now it's like that Silco's gone. They have to work together.
Well, that's how it shows Savika is actually a born leader. Like
Yes.
she prefers being the understudy or the
second
one
in command.
And then in the end she ends up joining the council as a representative
Yes.
of the undercity because she realized her importance to
Yep.
the people. and
Exactly.
stuff. Oh my God, I forgot about Heimerdinger's song.
Oh,
yeah! No, I've listened to that one the most.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so Bob Dylan.
I totally
it's
forgot
so
about
good.
it too.
Well, and it's like that's Heimerdinger at his happiest. He's been a scientist, he's been a professor and a doctor, but he really just wants to play his guitar and make people happy.
Like,
Yeah.
We
wants to
were
enjoy
watching
life,
it,
live life.
and like as it was coming out, we watched the episodes, and the music came up, and suddenly his voice comes up. Allie goes, "Is that him? Is that the little guy?" And I'm
Is
like,
that the little guy?
"What?" And I'm listening. I'm like, "What?" And then it shows him singing. We're like, "Oh my God, he's so good at singing."
Well, that's a great point too. When you bringing that up, you made a great point because it's all about intentionality with the music.
Yes.
Like what you brought up, Ange. It's not only just saying, oh, we got this Katy Perry song we're using.
Something around
We're
it.
built something around it, but also we're picking artists that fit this. Like Imagine Dragons with the main theme.
Yeah.
21
and the
Pilots,
artists are writing it.
21 Pilots
the lyrics
as well.
to what's going on the screen.
Yeah, as well as the other artists as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
I also like the
Really
Sting
cool.
one. I don't know why I really like that one in there.
Which
That's
one's
the
that?
What Could Have Been song at the very end of season 1.
Oh.
Allie's like, ew, Sting.
Oh,
and I'm like,
Sting's
no,
the
I
artist.
like it.
Okay, yeah.
He's
all
got
right.
a lullaby voice. I like it.
He does, and she gets to shoot off her.
That was
sharp
like way more
rocket,
than 3,
so.
but yeah.
What's the meaning of Queen of Your Hearts or whatever that song is?
Wait, which one?
Can't go to bed of my heart. No, what's it called?
What?
What's it? I love it. The Sting song that's real famous. It's his biggest
Oh,
one.
I don't know.
The Queen of Hearts song. He talks about all the cards.
Yeah.
What's
where
it
he's
called?
it's like the Joker, and he's talking about all the different cards in the deck.
Queens on the thrones of the throne. It's like, whatever. It's a great song.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And one time we were, me and Dad, years ago, we were taking kids home from youth group because he could drive the van and I was riding shotgun. And we listened to that on the way home, but I had it on repeat. And we listened to it for like 10 minutes. And he's like,
20 minutes.
God, how long is this song?
I just had it on repeat, Dad. Sorry.
I wrote we got furry people at some point. I don't know where.
They're called Vestaya.
Oh, okay.
They come from Ionia.
Oh, the whole thing with the whole smoke thing. Never mind.
What?
I'm going through my random
the
notes.
gray where they weaponize it? Is that what you're talking about?
Where they're underneath and it's poisoning them.
That whole thing reminds me of Samurai Jack.
Yeah, it does.
Dude, I was like, oh, bro.
Samurai Jack has such unique things in their
I was
storytelling.
rewatching Arcane and I didn't realize it when after Caitlyn's mom dies, she's going through the records that she has with like the family key, and her mom's voice is coming over as a recording. And
Yes.
this is how Caitlyn finds out about the gray, which is
Yeah.
the smoke of the smog of the factories.
And then
It's
we don't get the
toxic.
reveal till the
And
next
her
episode.
mom is the one who started that project, and she says the people underground deserve to
Oh.
breathe, and so there's all these vaults to get to it, and you can only open it with the family key, and so Caitlyn abuses it, and she uses it to attack the people of the underground.
Interesting.
It's all
Yeah.
revenge. Yeah.
I want to really briefly touch on the whole DNA kind of side plot, and then we'll dive into
DNA?
the
DNA?
Wait, which one?
the whole thing with that fella who
The fella.
had Victor as a prodigy, who does the
Singe?
animal.
Oh, Singe.
Singe, that's his name.
Yeah.
What do we think of that? Because I'm
I
a
have
huge
theory
fan
about,
of all
I have
that.
a theory
And
about
then he
the
kills
shimmer,
his
too.
pet,
Then he kills his pet. And, dude, it
No,
gave me
it's
full.
still alive.
but
He
it's
keeps it alive forever.
tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, it gave me full Hunger Games vibes. Like, what, like
It
especially
did.
Mockingjay.
Like the
Like when
creepy
you're
stuff.
reading
Yeah.
Mockingjay, the dogs
oh God.
that
Yeah.
have the voices.
They're made out
that
of
are-
the
that's
dead.
that's Hunger
They're made out
Games,
of the
and
dead
then in
people.
Mockingjay, it's
Mockingjay.
the,
Sorry, that's what I'm
yeah.
saying.
In Mockingjay, it's the
Mockingjay-
creatures in the sewers.
Yeah, in the sewers.
Jake, did you read
it's
the
so
latest
good.
one?
Oh
With
God.
I haven't read any of the latest.
Dude, it's some of the
Yeah.
creepiest
It is.
stuff so
And
far.
if you thought the first 4 were tragic, this new
it
one
gets
about
so,
Hamish,
yeah.
you understand why.
I want to
I
read
won't
that
spoil it.
so
We won't
bad.
spoil it. We
So
won't
bad.
No, but it's good.
I think
it's
I
very,
have it on one of the audibles. From,
Yeah, because I told you I bought it on
Your
Audible.
account
It's
or
probably the
account,
most
whichever.
disturbing,
Yeah, your
like
account, yeah.
scientific.
Dude, I got
yeah.
and dude, the casting. You guys seen the casting for the movie they're gonna do?
No.
Well,
you
Jesse
said the
Plemons.
guy-
Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons.
Who does he
is
play? I
perfect.
totally forgot. Who's he playing? He's playing.
Is he one of the game people?
No, but they have what's his
He's
name?
not playing Hamish.
Playing as young Stanley Tucci. It's the dude
Oh,
who was
Flickerman.
the guy who plays Flickerman.
Lucky Flickerman.
They have somebody else playing him now.
yeah,
and,
they do.
And
I
Jesse
saw
Plemons.
that, and I was
Jesse
like, what?
Plemons is who's he playing?
It's okay.
Jesse
it's okay.
Plemons is playing somebody like perfect casting, and I'm like, what?
Now I can't
No, but
remember
like
who
I
it's
said,
supposed
the
to be.
book-
Anyway, yeah,
The
I gotta
book
read the book.
is so dark.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
yeah.
theory about
so
where
down.
the
So anyway, let's
shimmer
go back
drug
to
comes
Singe and the creepiness. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah,
it can be ever
okay.
as short or long if you want.
So
I just think it's
Singe
dope.
created the drugs down in the undersea.
Yeah.
The purple
Yeah.
The shimmer.
They call it shimmer.
So he
created
Shimmer.
that.
Okay.
He got it from, we see in Victor's flashback, and he sees the giant lizard thing for the
Yeah,
first
and he
time.
goes, "But that
He's
was your
feeding
pet."
it the purple flowers.
Yep.
So the purple flowers aren't themselves toxic. Well, the color of those flowers are the color of the void. And in the
Yep.
world of League of Legends, the void is before time even began. That's where these giant entities called the Watchers live. It's a giant purple evil place.
Order out of chaos, kind of.
Yeah, and so they saw reality get created and they hate reality, so they want to destroy it all the time. Well, sometimes the Watchers come to Earth and get trapped by certain characters in League. My theory is either there's a void rift torn open underneath the city somewhere and feeding these flowers to come up out of it, so like they're from the void, or a Watcher is buried there and it's from their blood.
Well, I think your theory would kind of be supported because in the
I've tried Googling it, nobody else.
In the Timelines episode, when Jace falls down there, there's all kinds of manner of freakiness down there, and who knows what else
that
could
was
be
probably
there
caused from the big
all the magic merging
all
with
the
other
magic
stuff.
merging.
Right.
Portal
but
theory.
so evil magic comes from the void.
Work.
Other magic like Hex Tech, the blue stuff, is the Arcane where Victor is floating around in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heavenly. It's astral.
Yeah, but it's not
the other
good.
Stuff
it's
is
neither good nor evil.
Hell-like. It comes from the void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I freaking love Singe. Like I don't know why I love mad scientists.
It's a Frankenstein.
So cool, like even before we got the emotional hook with him and his daughter, like, oh, he's got a daughter, you know, like even before that,
was a cool
I'm just
storyline.
like, oh, like he caught that giant wolf, like the two-headed one.
Yeah,
that he made
that
Dander
was
with.
creepy.
And then like
Always
in the
the end of
next
the
episode, as the end before the end credits, he's working at the desk and you hear a heartbeat and it's the heart of the wolf. It's two hearts together from the wolf. And I was just like, what is that? Like. So
the freaky mad scientist stuff.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does make an interesting
Probably
story.
why I like Hunger Games.
What's your take on all that stuff, Ange?
On like the Hex Tech and
bio,
stuff?
like bio stuff?
The creepy.
I feel like it goes back to the question about technology.
Let's get into that, actually.
Yeah, you want to read that, Jake? Because I feel like that's what it all leads towards.
Let's go with this question here. What does magic symbolize in this universe?
Okay, what do you mean by that? It's magic.
Well, magic or hex tech, what does it all symbolize?
In other words,
here?
why are, at least like in Chronicles of Narnia, the magic is a metaphor for spirituality.
Okay.
Are you going to side with the White Witch? Are you going to take her ideology, or are you going to side with Aslan?
Okay.
And the same thing in Harry Potter. Are you going to side with Voldemort, where power is everything?
Or a bad witch?
Exactly. And you know that line in Wizard of Oz, what Frank Baum wrote for his mother-in-law?
No.
Because she was a feminist writer in the Victorian time. And she actually wrote that not all witches were bad. And so he based Glinda on her. Because when his wife died, in, I think it was childbirth or a fever, she helped raise all 4 children.
Oh, wow.
And he was best friends with his mother-in-law. And so Glinda is based on her, and he made her a good witch. But I feel like, same thing in Wizard of Oz, that magic is representative of things in our world. And I feel like when you see magic in stories, it's a metaphor for something. And in this case, they're using the magic, they're merging it with science. And to me, it's this lesson
Basically
about,
alchemy.
it's a lesson about technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because you have new technology doesn't mean you should use it.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, and we have a tendency.
we do see
in our
the
culture
repercussions of that with
and in our culture, we have a tendency, if something's new, like vaping, everybody's like, let's just use this.
Right. Did you find out?
Did
you know that people's lungs are collapsing now?
I had 2 students that permanently damaged their lungs and burned them just from vaping because it exploded.
Right.
Oh my God.
And they think that it's
and that's the whole thing. We have a tendency to rely on technology. It's like the self-driving car, paradox. It's like, when they give the self-driving car a moral thing, and I always used to use this in arguments where it's like, if the self-driving car's brakes go out and there's a semi in front of it, and to the right of it is a minivan full of kids and a family, but nobody's wearing seatbelts.
Oh,
and to the left of it is a motorcyclist, but he's not wearing a helmet. What does the self-driving car crash into?
Yeah, there's an
ambulance,
a fire truck.
Or does it crash into the semi and kill the person inside?
There's an ambulance, a fire truck, and a mailbox at a 4-way stop. Who lets goes first?
It's like, what's that paradox where it's like there's the railroad and the train track on one train track is something, and then
and sometimes there's a paradox where, like the train tracks, it's about making an ethical decision. In the scenario I just described with self-driving cars, it's a zero paradox. No matter what you choose,
right? It doesn't matter
what
you choose, right?
And I always would tell the students, there's nothing wrong with self-driving cars. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. But it reminds me of iRobot. Save the girl, and because he had a higher probability of surviving, the robot saved him.
I feel like the difference with Arcane, though, is there literally is good magic and bad magic, or neutral magic and bad magic.
Is it what people do with the technology?
Is what people
you know what I mean?
do with it.
Right.
That's
It's
the thing.
like in this
Victor's
world, in the
Lake.
There's
world
also
of
some
Arcane,
forbidden-
like
it's a good
Piltover,
point.
mages are not a normal thing,
Yeah.
right?
Well, also, here's
like this is new for them.
Well,
whereas in like Ionia, like magic is a part
That's
of life.
normal in their country.
Yeah,
exactly.
and so for Piltover,
also-
they're discovering
They're merging it with technology.
Singe knows about the things he can do, and he has totally different morals.
He has no ethics.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He enjoys pain. Like, did you see how much he enjoyed working on Jinx? Like, she was like dying.
Exactly, and this was like, this is when I was made. You know.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of what you're saying, Ange. It's like how you use it, but also it's the forbidden knowledge kind of theory of technology, like.
Was
like
it
why the whole idea of the Tower of Babel, that kind of thing. Like it's the blood mixing.
Beat that argument completely.
It's the blood mixing with hex tech. It's the use of that and what are the properties they could use for it. But then it totally goes into the AI and technology theory discussion, because you literally have, Victor, who becomes an AI overlord, basically.
He gave up his humanity.
Who gave up his humanity. He basically dies earlier in the show.
And Sky is the last vestige of his consciousness, the girl that died.
And when he says, make me full on whatever, robot or whatever it's going to be, he says, thank you for your company. I'm going to miss you. And she's like, no, you won't.
Yeah, no, you won't.
You're not going to miss me.
Well, and I also feel like, yet again, with the self-driving cars, there's nothing wrong with technology. I mean, the number one reason for accidents is driver error. So that's the whole scenario. If we have a self-driving car, can we cut down on driver accidents? And I would always tell my students, I was like, you can't stop technology. The problem is how much faith and how much power we give that technology in our lives.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like Arcane, it's the same lesson all over again.
Right. Because Victor was totally justified. He deserved to be healed of his sickness.
And not be lame.
Right. He deserved to try and kill himself to find it, because he was just going to die anyway.
Yeah.
And why not take this chance to try and live again?
Yeah.
Right.
But his desire overtook his morals.
Right, his hunger for
going
power,
beyond, his hunger for knowledge,
killed his best friend. It killed Sky.
It killed Sky, and it's all of this craziness.
Well, I think yet again the magic. What is the magic trying to say to us? What can we see in our world that parallels that? What is the magic a metaphor for? And I agree, Chelsea. Like, you brought up an excellent
This is
point.
so messed up.
Oh, I love it.
It's like an Avengers joke.
Nice Avengers meme. There we go. Well, I think it's interesting because there is good and bad magic in this universe, but I think it's the merge of that with their knowledge. And Heimerdinger even says, you need to have 10 years before you even institute this.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, if they didn't have the hex tech, which I thought was interesting in the alternate reality, there was no Jinx who became a villain. There was no hex tech.
No one
and he had to go
and yet life
out
was
of the wall.
so much better.
Yeah.
And life was so much better, and everything turned out better.
The underground people were living up above because the underground was still poisoned. They had no way to get rid of the air down there. Yeah. That never happened there.
But I think, yet again, without that hex tech, they never would have won the war. Mm-hmm. There's a purpose for it, but yet again, it's how you use it. Do you give it to Mbessa, who we know has no morals?
She was like, give me this weapon right now. I'm gonna kill every country. Like,
even her own daughter. She's like, I don't care. And,
well, it's also, that's why you got to be careful. Like, it could be created in purity or for good faith.
It could start off
but
good.
Man is flawed, and the creation of what man creates can be taken advantage of bad people.
And sometimes we have to go through the worst consequences of our actions to change either people in the future or ourselves from it. Like, as much as, like, I hate admitting that, like, we do have to go through some of the worst things in our lives. Like, it has to happen, or we can't become a new person.
You could even,
there's no growth without struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no maturity without trying to get over the hard things. And it's like, I feel like there's nothing wrong with having hard things. It's how you handle them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like the reason they immediately went to Hextech was because there was this attack and they lost members of the council. And of course, let's make this rash decision to get back and protect ourselves.
And it's cool because if you're just watching this, you're like, oh, this is heading to a terrible direction.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes there.
And then it goes there.
So you brought up the alternate reality. Let's talk about that episode.
Oh,
okay.
Episode
one of my favorite
7
episodes
of season 2. You get Echo.
What's the name of the episode? Sorry,
somebody look at that for me.
I was trying to.
I don't know.
You have go ahead and do that, Ange. But basically, you have Echo and Jace. Remind me. I don't remember how they get there.
So they go down into where the hex core is. The hex core is what they use to teleport people.
They go down to the hex core
from the towers to other.
They go down
countries.
there. Yeah, and they both get sucked into.
It's the core
void,
for their fast travel, basically.
I got the title. The title is "Pretend Like It's the First Time." Because that's
the kid.
What he says.
So through this series of unfortunate events, you have Echo going into a reality where things are good. The only catalyst for the reason they're being good is there is no Hex Tech, I believe, as well as Vi.
Vi died instead
Vi
of
was the only
Vander.
death.
Yes, Vi passed away.
Yes.
She was the only death, and it happened in the study when things exploded and they went to steal Jace's stuff in his study.
That's why
that's
never
where the
got
story
it.
ended right there.
Yeah.
Vi died.
She sacrificed herself to save
Hextech was never created.
Yep.
And so therefore, well, I guess it's Hextech that made everything kind of go downhill. That's what you think.
Well,
everyone's
also,
got a better life
there's
for it.
other stuff that happens because, like, Silco's totally cool.
Yeah, him and Vander.
And he only has one eye still.
And he has
So
one
they
eye, you know.
So him and Vander had their fight.
Yeah, they had their fight.
So they had
you
their
know.
fight.
But there
the
was a
war on the bridge
reconciliation at
actually
some point.
happened
But there was a reconciliation at some point.
because
Because?
in the main universe for that the show is following,
Oh, okay.
Vi and Jinx go down. They find that little hut that the miners had. A note was left by Vander there for Silco saying he
Yes.
was sorry and that he wished he could,
Yeah.
and how he tried to
Oh.
find him. Well, the note's all dusty. Silco never found it.
Yeah.
In
he never went
this
back.
universe that Echo is in, he must have found it.
Hmm.
Like that's the only difference I can
Because
think of.
like Echo is
Unless there was a
so
person
upset
who
because he
changed
sees
it.
Silco at the bar, and Vander and him put a hand on each other and said, "Well,
yeah,
it's
they're like
important."
buddies.
They even say it's important to forgive and go forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, it's a powerful
Echo
moment.
was like,
What?
you can't believe it.
And Milo and the other boy, I forget what his name. They never died.
Milo
what's his name?
and Krager?
Krager.
Yeah.
Clagger.
Clagger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they never died.
Clagger is
and
played by Sonic the Hedgehog.
No.
Did you
Yeah,
know
what's
that?
his name?
Rogers.
Nice.
Roger Craig.
Roger
Nice.
Craig, yeah.
And then Yuri Lowenthal is.
Yeah, Yuri Lowenthal is Milo.
Yeah, so I got spoiled for that because I
What do
saw
you
them in IMDb in season 2, and I'm like, oh shoot,
Oh,
there's a
they're
flash.
they're
No, I said
alive.
there's a flashback episode. So I'm like, okay,
Oh.
cool. I'm excited to go back
There's a
and see
flash
what
It was a
happened.
flash forward.
But no, it's a flash forward. So it's like,
It was a flash alternate.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in that episode, I think what's so beautiful, and it freaks Echo out at first until I think he sees Benzo.
I know.
And when
I
he
was
sees
like,
Benzo, it's like, this is the dad I never got closure from. I never got to say goodbye to. The
Yeah.
man who basically pulled me off the street, made sure I was on the right path.
Yeah.
And because of his morals, that's why Echo does what he does.
Yeah.
And
He
I
raised
think
him good.
like after he sees Benzo, it's like he's freaked out at first because last time he saw Powder or Jinx, she tried to kill him on the bridge. She tried to
Yeah.
kill both of them.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden she's normal and he's like, can I trust this?
And they're dating.
and they're
And he
dating.
doesn't know it.
And
Yeah,
he
that's
doesn't
right.
know it. But I think
She's
what's-
like, what? Why are you acting? so
yeah,
weird?"
why did you
she
bring
gets
up my
mad at him when he
sister?
says, what, Vi died? And she's like, you need to get out of here.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
funny.
But
Like,
well, I think what's so interesting about that episode is it's like, this is what could have happened if there was redemption, if there was healing, if that trauma never stopped people in their tracks. And it's
Yeah.
probably, there's an Aisha in that world that's living her best life with her parents, probably.
maybe she was never.
Yeah, I was like, it's one of those things where it's like she wasn't a kid on the street stealing stuff to survive. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a whole nother thing. And I think what's so interesting about that episode is it's so much hope. And it's heartbreaking to watch Echo have to leave it
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he's so happy here and he sees what it could have. But if he didn't have, just like Jace's experience in the hell
Yeah.
that he went
Yeah.
through in the other world
Yeah,
and
Jace
going
got
up
sent
to the
worst timeline, and
Yes.
Echo got sent to the best.
Best
Or and
timeline.
Heimerdinger got sent to the best.
and Heimerdinger sacrifices himself so that
Oh,
Echo
by the
can go
way,
forward.
don't worry, he's fine.
Is he in fine?
Really?
Okay.
So Yordles are entirely made of magic, even their physical bodies. So
okay.
if something happens to their physical
That
body,
explains everything.
they respawn back in Vandal City in the spirit realm.
Okay.
And because like Smeech, the guy in the alleyway, he totally got torn to pieces.
Yeah.
But don't worry,
His
he's
spirit.
fine. He's back.
Yeah,
in
he's
the-
spirit, 'cause they're
he
made of-
probably hates his life now because he's with all the happy Yordles and stuff.
What I think is so pivotal about that episode is that episode, instead of seeing them on the bridge as enemies, we get to see them as friends. In this season, we get to see them
couple.
working together as a couple.
Yeah.
And there's love and there's
happy.
respect and they're happy. And it's what spurs Echo on to go save Jinx. Because let's be honest, without Jinx, that coming in on her throne with the loudspeakers, right as Mbessa's
Oh,
trying to take
yeah.
over.
And you totally
So sick.
forget about her as the battle's going on. Like, I totally forgot Jinx
Yeah.
and Echo were doing something because of
trying
what's
to
happening.
end
Yeah,
herself.
okay. I didn't like
Yeah.
how it cut. So like Jinx tries to take her own life. This is after the episode with the flash, where the alternate reality. He realizes he needs to save her.
Mm-hmm.
He goes and he finds her, and she's trying to blow herself up with one of her bombs.
Several times.
And several times. And he keeps pulling his thing and rewinding time 10 seconds. And then he convinces her not to do it, and he says, "I need you," and then it just kind of cuts away. It's like, well, wait, how did they?
Yeah, there was no resolution.
That was probably the only qualm I had. I was like, I don't know how they got together.
I would say it's cool because, yes, it's like, oh, she's saving her life, but I think it's cool because he loves her in the best version of her and the worst version of her.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's like to
So
see
good.
that dedication and love and to just have the pure intentions he has. Like, he loves her. Like, even like.
But it's always about the greater good.
But it's all about,
the parallels with her trying to
else.
end her life. Did anybody watch the music video for the My Enemy or whatever that they were dancing to?
Yes.
Anybody see that music video? Like, so they animated Jinx and Echo together singing the words in French.
Okay.
To that song. In the end of the music video, when it's just the girl singing, which I guess she's from Coldplay. I didn't know that.
Oh.
And she's singing. Jinx is in the pose of her falling like this with the bomb in her hand, except she's floating upward. And then suddenly Echo comes behind her and puts his arms around her and she smiles. It's like he saved her.
Interesting.
And so that's all I could think about watching the scene of them dancing again. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well,
so I was like,
and not having that experience at the best of her, would he have gone back and saved her?
it kind of shows you what could have happened if she didn't disappear.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, also that he's just willing to do that for her and to even sacrifice himself if need be.
Yeah.
To save the world he grew up in, because he knows that. And it's interesting because this is my like critique about these episodes. Like, we have a lot of character development done in just an episode.
Oh, so much showing.
Especially with Jace, and you're kind of like, this is a little bit of a cop out, the alternate reality thing. But
Like a retcon.
they do it really well.
Well, they
It's
do
handled
it
in
for
very,
the
very
best
good ways.
possible reasons.
Yes.
And I think it's like they're celebrating, instead of like, oh, this is the Founders' Day, they're celebrating this progression of science and these awards.
Oh,
and
sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No,
Anybody else think of BioShock Infinite?
Yep.
When it looked just
Dude,
like BioShock Infinite.
And we'll get to it. We'll talk about the end next.
Minus
but
the
the
racism,
whole
yes.
ending. The
there's
whole
totally
ending
racism.
like fight. I'm like, dude, this is
To
like
the under people.
straight up BioShock stuff.
yeah.
It's so cool.
Well, and I think I don't mind. The difference with a utopia and a dystopia is a utopia, okay, you have a perfect society, but at what cost?
Mhm.
There's always a cost. Kind of like even when Thomas More wrote Utopia in the 1400s, it was about this island where everybody lived perfectly, but then there was a slave class.
Mm.
So it's like, at what
wasn't
cost?
perfect,
At what cost?
right, yeah.
So with dystopias, I feel like they're trying to point out things in our society. And maybe this is something we need to change. Like for Hunger Games, it's a political dystopia. If you look at A Handmaid's Tale, it's a feminist dystopia. But one thing I really like about dystopias is once you lose your rights, even in 1984, Orwell's 1984, you never get them back.
Yeah.
And I feel like that...
I mean, you can, but it would take lots of bloodshed.
It takes revolution.
It does.
Basically.
It takes a kind of a going away. Like, what was it? Thomas Jefferson said, the flowers of progress and democracy need to be watered with the blood of revolution.
Damn.
Every once in a while. It was harsh. It's harsh. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if I agree with that ideology, but it's one of those things that
Well, he's also,
like,
to
I
be
have to
fair,
agree with
he's a guy that lived through a revolution,
yes.
to be fair.
Right,
So
right.
he'd probably know more
Several.
than us.
He was in France too.
That's true.
So yeah.
Dang.
So,
Okay.
but I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like
Without Thomas Jefferson, we would never have gotten
seeing the
Arcane, guys.
utopia side, kind of
Okay.
seeing the best it could be, and then seeing the hell that Jace goes through to get to the top of
which
that mountain.
he totally needed to go through, like,
He
personality.
As a-
needed
yeah,
to
he
burn
needed
away
it.
all the
Yeah.
selfishness
Mm.
and to realize how pivotal Jace's role was. And he had to go through that to leave the old person away, the ambitious jerk, the frat boy, like with the
Who
nerd
wanted
friend
to
who does his homework.
The one who wanted to commit suicide because he got kicked out of school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like he had to go through that to become the man he was meant to be, to become the leader he was meant to be.
To save people
Yeah.
as well.
And everybody.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for him convincing Victor.
Right.
And yet again, what convinces Victor is that love of a friend.
And it's really
Right.
cool because and we can get into the ending now, but when you get into the last episode with the whole battle, the two
So
people
cool.
who had to
So cool.
change and did are the ones that saved the day and change everything. And also the people that didn't go, which is Vi and Jinx, got that reconciliation
Yeah.
and reconciled through back-to-back against the evil forces.
What I think is so
basically.
interesting.
It's so cool. They didn't need to do that to get into a different alternate reality, but they did it on their own in the own world without that help of that.
Well, I feel like their motivations have been there from the beginning. They've been living in the unders. They've always been striving, especially Vi. She's like, why do we got to live down here? But and then when she becomes part of like the soldiers or whatever, she gets kind of a taste of what that's like, and she realizes we all need to be working together. Like we can't be up versus down anymore.
Savika gets the same way the girl with one arm. Yeah. Well, I think what's so interesting is you follow those two sisters on the bridge, and you see what the fighting down there takes from them. And you get her in the first season trying to find Powder, trying to reconcile things with her. And it ends with Powder saying, no, I'm Jinx. And she sits down on Silco's throne. And in the last episode of season 2, her and Echo come in best friends she's sitting on a throne with all her colors.
I love her outfit so much.
Runs up, looks at Mbessa like, what's up?
Yeah, she's got like the hood on.
Yeah, she's got her crown.
Yeah,
she's
cool.
Silco's daughter in every way, and you can't forget of us. And then the firelights come out, and
gosh, they're so cool.
The fighting scenes are so amazing, but they change the course of that battle, and that has happened in history so many times, where one person shows up or a few people show up, and it turns the course of the battle.
The tide, yeah.
And I think everybody's like, "Hey, we got to work together to go against Mbessa," and then Mbessa is taken down. And those two sisters, yet again, that's how we end. We end with those two sisters having to let each other go.
Yeah.
And in so much of a sense, Vi did save her. And yet she saved Vi.
Or Jinx also got what she wanted to. Yeah. Right? Her piece was like ending it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think her piece is, if I'm going down, let there be a reason I'm going down.
Right.
And she even says, I'm always with you, sis, before she lets go. Because
and there was probably no saving Vander anyway.
Well, there's no saving Vander, who's now Warwick. He's beyond help. But also, she realizes the platform that Vi's on is going to fall if they keep holding on, because the weight is going to break it. Yeah. And she lets it. Now, people debate.
What's that movie, Vertical Limit? Or he's like, you gotta cut the line, you're gonna fall. And then they do that.
Well, and I think what's interesting is people debate whether Jinx really died, because you see that shimmer.
Yeah, you see the
shimmer. So she could have been sucked into a portal. I don't know. But at the same time, I think it's the choice of her saying, if I'm gonna go down, I'm going down fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure my sister has a life.
Right.
And I think what's so sad about that is Echo's still alone.
I know.
Yes,
that's why
sitting there by himself.
Like, it could have been like they could have got together.
Well, and
he could have told her what he found.
Let's talk about Echo and the end of this. Who really saves the day? It's that kid.
He's the hero.
This kid Anakin. That Victor could not.
What? Did you say?
What'd you say?
He's Anakin.
No, he's not.
Now this is hoverboarding.
No, he's not.
No.
I'm joking.
No, but what's so great is you have this kid that's given his all. He doesn't probably plan on living. And you have all these weird people that are putting their heads up.
Oh yeah, Victor's
wizard
crazy.
The Colts.
All they have to do is
Colts is in full swing.
They don't kill them. All they have to do is touch you.
Yes,
and you're a zombie. Yeah, it's like or your brain's gone or whatever.
And he keeps pulling that 10-second cord and going and doing it different.
And then it doesn't work, so he has to set it to longer than 10 seconds.
And then
the last time that happened, Heimerdiger's body exploded.
I know.
And so it's like, this is it. I'm going now.
By the way, side note, when that happened and they're testing it, he's like, oh, we don't want to do that again. He's like, why? We don't want to do that.
No, he's like, it's 10 seconds is the max. He's like, it's 4 seconds. He goes, why? And he's like, it's just 4 seconds.
It's just 4 seconds. Yeah.
Like Heimerdiger's hair is still on him. Yeah. It's like, oh my God.
Right? He like exploded. Yeah.
It's horrible.
But what I think is so interesting is you have this kid that really doesn't think he's going to get out of it. And yet again, his motivations, I think that's what makes him, it's what makes him so applicable as a character.
He's the best
character. He just has this heart. He has this heart that, I could do this all day kind of thing. That's really what Echo is.
I would want to follow him.
Well, also, he's also the biggest catalyst as to why Jinx changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only in season 1 with the fight, like that starts a journey for her.
Yeah.
And was it episode 6 or 7 of
6
season
or 7?
1?
Yeah.
And then this last one where he basically prevents her from committing suicide.
Yeah. He talks to her
after she's at her lowest. After Silco, she hallucinates Silco and he talks to her. After she is about to do the bomb and just blow away everything, he brings her back. He fights her and confronts her as her Jinx's self,
He
but
has
then
to do
brings
it, like,
powder
6 or
back
7
out of
times.
Jinx. at
Yeah,
the end.
and he saves Warwick in a sense, and she saves Vi.
I'm sorry. Remind me who Warwick is again?
Warwick is
werewolf.
Vander the wolf.
He's Vander
Oh,
as
okay,
a
that's
wolf.
who we're
Sorry,
calling
sorry.
Vander as the wolf.
No,
Okay.
that's his
Like
name
the whole
now.
time
That's
we're
his
like
name. He's no
talking
longer
about him, you're
Vander.
like,
Okay.
I have no idea.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't remember.
No, it's confusing because there's so many characters. But I also think like that is my favorite scene in the entire series.
Thank you,
is
Beth.
when he's pulling that cord and he's trying to stop it. And he's trying.
All right, go ahead and talk in your mics.
Okay, hello.
Hello,
All
hello.
right, perfect. All right, cool.
So
Yay.
you said who's Warwick? Or
So
how did that
Warwick,
end?
yeah, well, you guys explained who Warwick was.
He's the
we
werewolf.
did. We already explained it. The werewolf.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where were we going? I think we're going
You
with
said, should we
Echo.
talk about the
He's
end?
he's the savior of Warwick as well. We love
Well,
Echo.
no. Okay, I was
No.
gonna mention the religious connotations, like why it's religious.
Yeah, let's go into that.
So-
real quick. Yeah.
Like you're like, okay, this is obviously got religious vibes. What did I write?
Religious vibes.
It does because
Man, it's got some religious vibes.
Where's
Said we're the
Victor?
Got some
1960s.
Hinduism in there, man. Got some
1960s.
Christianity.
Have you ever seen Sweet Charity where Sammy Davis Jr. has the Church of Coolness? And he's
I
like,
think I've seen clips
The
from
Church
that.
of
slide,
Coolness?
slide with daddy.
Here
And
we
he's
go.
like, come to me.
Oh my God.
And he goes, all you cool cats, don't take a blunt if someone else.
What?
Oh, no, it's like
Sammy
straight
Davis
on.
Jr.
It's
is
Sammy Davis
great.
Jr., yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's what it reminds me of, cool cats. Every time I hear that.
Cats.
Okay, so
All right, spiritual stuff.
So, okay, so in the lore of the game,
Mhm.
there's a group called the Church of the Glorious Evolution. It has nothing to do with Victor.
Okay.
They're a cult of people who believe that humanity will evolve into their true form through augmentation. So the
Mm.
church of these people are cyborgs. Basically, they have metal parts.
So it's like
all-
transhuman stuff.
Yeah. Well, Victor is a professor in it or whatever, and he believes that humans are weak and blah. He knows nothing about this cult or anything. That's just what he believes scientifically.
Mhm.
He eventually replaces his whole body as a robot, like literally as a robot, not through arcane means. But this church looks up to him as their herald. They're like, our herald has come back,
Oh,
and everything.
no.
So the
Oh,
fact that in
glorious Bob.
Arcane, it kind of he kind of made that church,
Believes.
even though it's not a church.
The culty.
Like, yeah, he transformed everybody with
Yes,
like metal
he did.
part into
Well,
metal
and then when
automatons.
he dies or something happens, they all die.
Right. When he leaves, that's why Vander Adelaide was confused about that. She's like, why has Vander got lava coming out of him? She's like, I don't understand that. And I'm like, because when Victor was going into his mind, searching for his humanity, he had to go way deep into the humanity, but he had to pass all of the rage and the pain
animalistic
that
stuff.
the wolf had to go through and stuff. And one of those landscapes he goes through, like they literally journey through his mind, is a lava landscape. So Victor, as he healed
makes sense.
Vander, like kind of cut that off from his human side so his human side could come out. Well, when Victor leaves, who's going to keep all that
All that's left is the void.
like pain and stuff? It manifested into the real world. Literally,
Yeah.
lava is pouring out of his body,
Oh,
and that's why
wow.
he's
That
in
is cool.
rage,
I did
like
not know
screaming
that.
in pain and stuff.
Oh.
There
He
we
had
go.
to be killed. You couldn't stop him.
No, yeah.
And stuff.
Well, and
but
it's
yeah.
just the way in which he dies that it's this kind of
Who Vander?
Vander, and that it's like Jinx is like, this is her way of saving him.
Right.
You
yeah.
know, is to let go, and that whole
it
scene
was by
where
her hand.
they play that song where she's
where
trying
she
to
was
end
gonna
herself,
jump. Yeah, they replay it.
and then they replay it, and it has such a different feel because here she is sacrificing herself so Vi can live, and Vander won't hurt anybody. But he's not alone. Like the tears going up as they fall with the gravity.
even if he's not there anymore. I mean,
you know, but it's
it is
like
closure for her.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
closure for her, and I think it's just an interesting way to end the series that you watch. You start the series out with, you know, Vi telling her, close your eyes as they're walking across this bridge so she doesn't, as a child, doesn't see all
Yeah.
the bodies.
I forgot about that.
And she's singing My Friend Across the River and she's closing her eyes.
Yeah.
And then you have her step up. And it's basically what Silco and Vander could never do.
Yeah.
That
I know. I'm
she's
looking at it
finished-
too.
She's finishing that story between the two of them.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I don't know. I honestly thought when I saw that it's a perfect series. I'd never seen anything of the game, and yet I had such
Right. You don't
depth
need to.
and respect the way they did it. They showed rather than tell what they're doing, and I think they did a masterful job from the acting to the execution
yeah.
to the narrative structure to the characters. Because you got to wonder, when you root for characters, why are you rooting for them?
Right.
Why do we love Kevin Spacey in House of Cards?
Yeah.
You know? Why do we love him?
The creators of this show treated it like a real story. It wasn't just a cash grab. Over in France, that's how they see animation.
Mm-hmm.
They see it as actual film and media, not as like automatically, animation.
How much money can we make from this franchise?
Right. It's not as corporate as you might think. At least from what we get over there, what they put out. What do you think of Victor having to do it multiple times to get this timeline?
Oh, it did make you wonder.
Yeah.
It almost reminded me of the second season of Loki. How many years did he replay that moment, to get it right? And
when he's trying to run out and he gets noodled or whatever.
Yeah. But then I also
that was bad.
I also think like with Victor, it's that quest for perfection. And what does he tell Jace in the end? Perfection is lonely.
Right.
And that was the one thing he never wanted to do was be alone. And I feel like there's such depth of empathy in the characters and the way they're brought across that you really feel what they're saying. And I really haven't seen a lot of animation that can do that.
Yeah.
And it's such almost like a Shakespearean level of the
it's
way,
like really smart.
Yes, and the stakes are high.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Like, I was so blown away. And I love it when a series can take me somewhere and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to end.
Yeah, exactly. I know we were like, they got to wrap this up. This is the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. And also, they not only did it they executed it well, but they did it in a very satisfactory way. Like, there's still lots of loss, lots of this, lots of that. But it's really satisfying and it's entertaining too. They do a really good job executing.
Yeah, for a show that didn't get another season. They had to wrap it up in season 2.
Yeah, they should have done a third season. I am curious.
They will do more stuff. It just won't be in the world of Piltover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I do have a question for the three of you, and I have my favorite moment. But what is your favorite moment in the whole overarching narrative?
Okay, it's the parallel of when.
The sex.
I mean, there's plenty of there's plenty of moments where I'm like, that was the gayest moment. That's so cool. Like, oh my god, did you see how cool that was? Like, a lot of it is cool, but for me, I think what got me when I went, was in season 1 when Victor first transmutes his leg or whatever with the hex. He realizes that it can change his body.
Yeah,
he takes his new leg for a test run.
Yeah.
And he's on the river.
And we're paralleling.
So behind him, he starts limping at first. He puts down his cane and he starts limping and he goes, oh, hey, I can walk. And then he starts running faster and faster. And behind him are boats. And at first, they're rowing faster than him in the distance.
Yes.
Then he's running and he outruns the boats in the distance. And he's going faster and faster, passing them up. And it parallels the moment when he was a child trying to chase after the little toy boat and he trips and falls as a cripple.
Yes.
And he finally overcame
wanting to be with the
that.
other kids.
Right. And that was an important memory for him too, because he remembered when he first met Singe and started learning under him and stuff. How that paralleled that. That was where
Chelsea.
My brain was like, oh my gosh, poor Victor. Like, I'm so glad he got his leg. I mean, he had to kill Sky to do it. But, I mean, he didn't do it, but...
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think it's, yet again, that idea of if you really want to be driven and you really want to have your desires fulfilled, it's going to cost you something. Yeah. And it cost this young scientist who was brilliant her life. And it's something...
And she liked him.
She really liked him.
She was like working up the courage to like ask him out or something when she was walking up.
Oh, she's all over him.
She's
like as he's trying to figure it out, he's coughing blood.
I really like what you're doing.
What I think
she goes, oh no, that's not going to work.
Get some rest, you know.
Yeah. And part of it too is
I could walk you out. No, lady, I don't need you. My work is consuming me.
In season 1, he knows he doesn't have much time. He's dying.
Oh, there's a funny meme where it shows Victor in the bed after he passes out for the first time from his health, and Jace is next to him, and he's like, "It doesn't look good, Jace," and he's like, how long did the doctor say? And he doesn't say anything. He's like, how long? He goes 5. And he goes, 5? 5 what? No, 4. And he's like,
oh, no.
What? It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Funny. Well, I like that because it's such, yet again, it shows that idea of him running and he can finally run and he's running faster than the toy boat. That he couldn't.
Yeah, that he couldn't run past.
That he couldn't run past, and that desire to be with the other children, to play with the other children,
right?
To have fellowship.
He was a
loner. Always was separated.
Yeah, he couldn't play with them. He couldn't keep up.
Yeah, and Heimerdinger, yet again, taking in him.
Yeah.
and taking in Jace.
Mhm.
And having that father spirit of like, let me guide you.
And then
in the direction.
Heimerdinger says when you find out that he's going to die, Jace is going to die, Jace goes to the spot where I think where he used to play as a kid.
Yeah.
And Heimerdinger comes up to him and he's like, I'm terribly sorry, my boy. I heard what happened. And he's like, what does Jace say? I can't remember what Jace says. And then Heimerdinger says it's a sad fact that the pupils that burn brightest,
The stars that burn brightest.
the stars that burn brightest burn out the quickest.
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
from a romantic poet.
Yeah.
Because so many of them died young of tuberculosis, drowning in a lake or whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's true. Brilliant minds.
What about you, Jake?
I would probably say, I wrote this in my notes actually. I'd say 2 moments. Most of probably much the entirety of episode 7 of season 2, like just the alternate reality, like we get such a break from the dreariness and darkness of season 2 in that
The
episode.
craziness.
While seeing a character go through the darkest moments of his
that
life.
burns away all the arrogance.
That burns away all the arrogance. But also, season 1 has an interesting part. Episode 6 of season 1, Caitlin and I wrote the drugged out Gollum guy, which I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah, the one.
His name is Huck.
Yeah, Huck.
Yeah, Huck.
So Huck
Who's
and Caitlin, who
addicted,
are
yeah.
looking for some kind of medicine for
Vi.
Vi.
He gets
She's
injured.
when
yeah.
she got stabbed by the chick. And it's cool because it's a tender moment of, even though Huck desires to get that whatever
Shimmer.
the
The
shimmer
dress,
and all this stuff,
'Cause
his
he's- yeah.
desire for that is not it's tempting and everything, but he still has the desire to help her out in a tender way
because of
to
Ander.
assist Caitlin.
Well,
and
yeah,
because
and
of
Vi,
Ander, and
he wanted
'cause
to
somebody looked out for
atone
him
somehow.
in the past.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's the only one down here who's like in the darkness, it's cool to see a little light in that darkness. as
Right.
well.
He
That's what I
says
would say.
they're waiting for the shaman lady, whoever's behind the cage, to get the medicine. And she's looking around at like the junkies and she's like, why would anybody do this to themselves? She could never understand. She was from
Yeah.
a entitled
she
family.
was entitled. She
right.
had
And
everything
she's like,
she
why would
wanted.
anybody choose to do that to themselves? And he said, I just wanted to not feel small for once.
Anymore.
But it
Yeah.
only took one time to become addicted
Mm.
and stuff. And he was
Yeah.
a good guy, but
Yeah.
it took over his life. That's what the drugs do. That's what addicts
Yeah.
go through.
And yet
then he
Even when
becomes-
the vial passes by, his eyes
yeah,
shimmer
he's like
Yeah.
becomes
in
hungry.
his eyes.
Yeah, he wants
but
it.
he doesn't reach out.
And
he doesn't
then she
grab it.
hugs him and tells him
Yeah,
thank
she
you.
hugs
And he's
him.
like, what the heck?
He's like,
do I do
what?
this?
Well, and I think it's like there's something about kindness that really cuts through a narrative arc in a story.
Mm.
It's kind of like Cars. I think one of my favorite moments in Cars is when Lightning McQueen stops. I was
Oh,
watching
yeah.
someone.
Oh,
from
at
Australia-
the end of the race.
I was watching someone react to
It's
it for
a
the
great-
first
yeah.
time, and she burst into tears.
Oh.
When he stops at the finish
And
line,
he
he
backs
doesn't go.
up.
He backs up and he pushes the other car forward.
The old
And
copy.
I don't know what it is about kindness, but I think it's why Jesus was so effective. There was just this kindness that cuts through the hard heart and the mental things we go through and
I
stuff.
think it's because there's not enough of it to go around. So immediately everybody expects you to do what everybody else would do.
Yeah. Have you
Right?
ever
Because
seen
everybody does that. And then when somebody
goes
chooses
against
to
it?
not go with the flow and to do the right
Yeah,
thing, people
It's
can't
good,
believe it.
Chelsea.
People can't believe that someone would do something to sacrifice their own benefit.
I don't know
Which
if
is really
you've-
sad because that is the world we live in.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I feel like Charlie Chaplin did this film called The Little Dictator, and he was making fun of Hitler.
Oh, I love
right
that
before,
speech he did.
right before World War II, and he does that speech that says, "Right now we need kindness more than anything."
Yeah, we must lead with kindness.
Yeah,
And
we must lead
It's
with
such a good
kindness.
speech.
And he's like, "Don't become machine men with machine minds.
right.
Let other people treat you badly and manipulate you into doing stuff.
And he's like,
You're not
screaming this into a
machines. You're
microphone.
men." And he's doing it like a dictator.
Yeah, he's really.
but
like,
it's the opposite of Hitler's message.
yeah,
And it's very, and if you ever get to see Chaplin, the movie that Robert Downey Jr.
they're
is
great.
in, he does
Yeah.
a really
yeah.
good job.
Even if you don't watch the whole
Huh.
movie, just watch that.
just watch
scene.
that speech.
It's so
he does
good.
he won the
It's
award
really
for
moving. Yeah.
because Chaplin had a tragic life.
Yeah.
But I think what it is that really reminds me of post-COVID and the world we're living in now, where everything is political and everybody's mad at everybody all the
Yeah, everything
time.
has to be.
And I feel like
political.
you need to combat that with kindness. And there's something about kindness that is so, so powerful.
A lot of times that means your opinion needs to take a back seat and you need to be quiet for a little bit. Even if you want to speak
That's so
up,
true, Chelsea.
it means you need to
Yes.
stop and say, wait, do I really need to speak up right now?
Yeah, there's
And that
part of discernment.
Self-control is a thing.
It's part of discernment as well.
I was going through
Right. That's the difficult thing. Is how do you learn discernment? Right.
I was going through some movies that I used to watch with my class, which was a transfer level class where it was all analytics and argument. And I would teach Harvey. I started out with Harvey. And then I would do In Time with Justin Timberlake about money. And then we would do Mama about family.
Hell yeah.
And it was just like, and then we'd always end with like A Wonderful Life, or depending on the semester, sometimes The Edge of Tomorrow was the Tom Cruise movie, where he has to.
He's doing the Lord's work in that.
Oh my God. No. And I realized after I was looking at all these movies I had bought and taught, and I thought, oh, I was trying to teach them kindness. Because one of Jimmy Stewart's best roles is he says, nobody ever brings anything small into a bar. And when I introduce them to Harvey, he's bigger than anything they face, and all their failures and all their hopes and all their dreams. He's bigger than that. It's like an encounter with God. And then I love the scene where he's in the office. He goes, my mother said, Elwood P. Dowd, in this life, you can be oh so smart or oh so pleasant. And he goes, I've been smart. I'd rather be pleasant.
Yeah.
And I always quote that, and I have them respond to that. And it's just, I realized through that entire class, I was trying to teach them kindness and, look at things through analytical ways. But I feel like there's something to be said about that. And there's something we're hungry for. Ellen, we were talking a while ago, and she goes, the world's hungry for heroes for a reason. Yeah. We're hungry for heroes. Like, everybody's all hyped about the new Superman movie. Why? Yeah. We're hungry for someone that does what's right.
For a long time, Superman even when they don't extremely unpopular because he was perfect goody two-shoes. And that was when Batman became its height.
Yeah, because people are like, I'd rather go with the dark, brooding character that won't fixate on a relationship.
Yeah, Alan Moore brought up a whole generation.
Yeah, I know.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller. But I also think, like, there's something to be said for what we gravitate towards, and I feel like people are hungry for kindness.
Well, I think
they're hungry for heroes that do what's right.
I think it's important to do critical thinking. Adelaide's mentioned that before. I think like critical thinking on things that you wouldn't think, like, let's say like Bluey or something stupid like that.
Yeah,
it's not stupid.
Popular culture.
Yeah, like because analyzing those movies, you're trying to pick out why characters are doing what they do, and what does it mean to you? What is your life and your experiences? How do you relate to a character and not relate to a character? And that's so important to do. Yeah. I think we all should stop and do that when we watch movies.
I feel like we're so...
Or you can just enjoy it.
Yeah, we're so distracted by everything around us these days.
Right.
It's important to stop and ask the big questions, the 3 philosophical questions. Everything boils down to those 3. Who am I? A question of identity. Why am I here? A question of purpose. And someday I will face my own mortality. I will face death.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like we are so distracted. They're big philosophical questions. Sometimes we don't have the answers to them. That's okay. But it's important to ask those questions and be introspective. And I feel like we're so bombarded with the loudness of this world and so distracted by all these things that
just
take our attention. Or just surviving.
Yeah.
Things that take our attention. I feel like you need to stop and ask those questions. Like, you need to stop and say, why is Arcane a good show?
Yeah. Why is it important that we break down the characters of, like,
and I guess I should give my favorite moment.
Yeah, what's your favorite moment?
Did that. After all that. My favorite moment is Echo sacrificing the time. And throwing it at them and surprising the person with godlike abilities.
Does he die?
No. He's sitting by himself thinking about Jinx at the end. And I feel like it's a Peter Parker thing. You can save the world, kid, but you're alone in the end.
Did you notice that there's a zoetrope inside the machine of the monkeys?
Yes, I did.
And a zoetrope, if you don't know, it was an old way of animation where you make like the little pictures in the wheel and you spin it.
And then you spin it.
And as it spins, you see the illusion of movement, and that's where animation comes from. Yeah. And that's kind of like a nod of animation love.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat.
And their first thing Fortiche did was the Jinx video, which has that monkey in it.
Yes, it has the monkey in it.
So it's just kind of a little
cool. And I think what's so neat about that is it's like, don't tell me it's over. That's kind of, I think, echoes that last bit, because if it wasn't for Echo, none of them would have survived.
Nah, he needed to.
And it was him sacrificing this thing. It cost him so much.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's fine if it does it. And it does.
He knew what he had to do.
He knew. I don't think he thought he was
the kind of guy who looks into himself and is like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Like Jace or somebody would, like, because they're so like philosophical from school and academic.
And this kid had just survived.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all it matters.
And it was like, but he had so much heart. Like, it's just like, I could do this all day kind of. And I don't think he thought he was going to live.
Yeah.
Going in
Probably
there. I
not. No,
honestly-
it didn't carry. That's why he's such a soldier, because you just go in there. You don't think about what's going to happen. You just do it.
Like the Punisher, you just don't stop. You just keep going.
Right. What about you, Jake?
Well, I already.
Oh, he already did.
mine.
Oh, you did?
But,
Oh, okay.
as we close out here, this discussion on the end, I want to go around and give our last, just final thoughts. If there's any moments you forgot about or any lore bits you want to say,
Or
go
what do
for
you
it
think
now.
the point of this was?
What do you think of the story? Point of this, I do want to bring up just really quickly. I think this is the only thing I'm narrowing it down to. Just this thing is, I was going through episode 5 and 6 of season 2. And seeing the flashback with Vander, Silco, and
the mom.
Remember Me.
Felicia.
Or no, it was
It's
the
Felicia,
scene, right? In the bar.
Yeah, that scene in the bar. It made me think about like the nuances of adult life, basically. Like those you may grow up with and grow apart with as well. Or like, say, for example, family members that don't get along, a history of folks that you aren't privy to.
Yeah.
Why does this aunt not like this person in the family? Why does Vander hate Silco? What relationship did they have before all this fallout? We get a glimpse of that in those episodes and the backstory as well. And you see them in a different light of what they were before all of
when
this
they were
is-
whole.
When they were whole. And I just thought it was interesting because there's a lot of that in, you can translate that to real life a lot. Like, why does this person of this family not like this person of that family? Or what's the history between that? And, it's basically the whole Romeo and Juliet thing. Like, why don't we get along? It's like, well, there's a lot
The
to
two
it,
families.
pal. So, I don't know. It just made me think of that. And it was cool to see that little piece of their history. So,
and of course, Adelaide
how they
had
were
her
divorced.
theories. She thinks
What'd she
that
say?
Vander.
Vander's-
She thought
yeah,
that
the
Vander.
dad.
She thought maybe Vander was her dad.
Dude.
And I was like, I guess you could have that interpretation. I didn't
Dude,
see it that way.
So back
just 'cause
on
he's
that
on the
earlier,
screen.
back on our earlier discussion, we were talking about, do Jason and Victor love each other? It's like I was watching some video essays, and the guy's like, they totally do. The nuance in the animation, the way
Romance
they
is
looking
real.
at each other,
Okay.
like they would absolutely like get married or whatever, or get it on. It's like they love each other, and I'm like, have you seen how characters react to each other who do like each other in this series? Like, Vi like poster boards Caitlyn against
She
the
does the
wall,
wall
and it's
push,
like,
yeah.
you're hot.
Yeah.
Like, use that.
and calls her cupcake.
And like,
It calls her
it
cupcake.
calls her cupcake. It's like, it's very obvious.
Not a casual thing you do.
When exactly, it's very obvious when
Someone's
this story
interested
when people are
romantically in
interested
someone.
romantically in another person. I don't think they're romantic at all. I think it's just purely brotherly love, and it's okay if it's that, guys. Come on,
Can I chime in on that?
go for it.
I think like if I had to say what the point of this series was, is I think it goes back to C.S. Lewis's 4 types of love.
Yeah,
That he says, there's familial love, there's the love you have with a family. We see that with Vander, we see that with Silco, we see them as, brothers and friends. And then he says there's friendship. There's that love you have between two people where it's like, I'm willing to go in like a soldier and die with you because I'm so committed to this. And I really think Jace and Victor fall into that category. And we see it in Corinthians, I think it's Corinthians, where it's no better person has no greater love than to lay down his life for his brother. And then,
Love
of
chapter.
course, there's Eros, which is like romantic love. And C.S. Lewis said the last type of love is charisma, which is where we get our word for grace. And I think that's something like that Echo does. I think it's why I like his character so much, where it's for everybody else, and he might lose everything doing it, but it's worth it.
yeah.
And it's like, what is it? Thaddeus always says, loving other people is a risk, but it's always a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like you really see that illustrated very powerfully in a lot of the characters and a lot of the arcs in this story. And it makes me happy because I see it and I'm like, this is worth my time.
How many
Because
times
the
have you
argument-
rewatched it?
I've only seen it 3.
Oh,
I watched
Like
it
the whole thing?
the whole thing. First time
dang.
when we watched it, Jake,
Impressed.
and then I rewatched it this last week.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, the stories were so powerful; they stayed with me. I didn't need
Yeah.
to watch it over and over
Yeah,
again.
there
But
was
I had
stuff
a
you were
better
catching
respect.
on as you were rewatching it with me. My first viewing, it was like, oh, whoa, oh, that, oh, you were like catching different things.
Yeah,
It was
there's
cool.
there's so
Did,
much in it.
Did David say what he liked about it? Like the coolest part, maybe?
I don't think he watched all of it.
he only
a few
watched like the
episodes
first 3 episodes with us.
when we
Oh.
had time.
And, like, maybe
we were
one or
trying to
two
do it before
afterward.
youth group and
And
stuff.
I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
well, he saw the one where
Angie's
Bessa
coming
showed
over. We're
up,
gonna
so-
watch that woke show.
that woke show.
Want to watch it with us, David?
Just do it. Me and
Sure.
Allie, do we skip the naughty scenes.
Okay.
Skip the
All
naughty
right,
bits.
Chelsea, what is
Speaking
your...
of naughty bits, what's your favorite parts of this, Chelsea? The last little bits
Why
you want to
naughty
mention.
bits?
I wanted to point out what I think their next project might be.
Yes, let's
based
get
off
into
the
that
last
real quick. I'll
end
let
of the
you.
show.
I'll let you take it off.
So I totally forgot about
Start it
this. A raven. We follow a raven like landing on the remnants of the
which is the
hammer.
same raven she shot at.
Right.
And the eyes.
So that is a character that's keeping an eye on everybody.
Oh, it's like
because
Odin.
the Arcane got messed with. So kind of other powers in the world are noticing, and that was like a subtle thing. Well, and when that raven shows, its eyes duplicate into like 6 eyes. So
yeah, that's right.
That's
so
right.
That
we were like,
is
what was
from,
that?
In the game, that's from a character called Swain, who in the game before Arcane even came out, he's the ruler of Noxus, where Imbess is from. In Arcane, though, I don't think so, because I think at the time in Imbess's book, she's, it's around the same time, they have an emperor, what's the emperor's name?
So it's like another
Borum
land.
Darkwill is the emperor, and I think Swain is his general at this time. Swain is betrayed by him and left to die on the battlefield in a country called Ionia. He's bleeding out. He lost his arm. A raven comes down and lands on him, and he looks into the eyes of the raven, and it grows 6 eyes, and he sees in the eyes of the raven all of the secrets that he never even knew about. He learns that his country is a lie. It's being ruled by the Black Rose. It's the emperor he was loyal to is corrupt and evil, and he couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, the raven is a herald of the demon of secrets called Ram. That's the name of the demon, and it gives him its power. Swain grows a new arm. He grows wings. He's a champion to play in the game, but he's the demon of secrets, so Swain knows every secrets around the world.
That's
because
really cool
of this power.
That goes back to, that's definitely inspired from like Babylonian mythology. That's really cool.
Well, it also is, I'm thinking like Norse mythology
too.
where Udin and Mudin were the 2 ravens that kept an Udin and Mudin that kept an eye on things for Odin because he lost his one eye for knowledge.
Okay.
And so unlike
That's
Anthony
cool.
Hopkins did in Thor where it was for a battle, he lost it. He gave it up for knowledge. And the ravens were his spies.
Yeah.
But it's one of the few times in like world mythology, any kind of mythology, that you see ravens in a positive light. They're always negative.
Yeah.
They're always bringers of doom and death.
Nevermore.
And in Nevermore, it's not an accident. But it's like in Norse mythology and in some Native American mythologies, they're positive.
Yeah, I think Adelaide thinks too that we're going to focus on a Noxus storyline and whatever they continue on
That would be
next.
cool.
That would be sick. Also, Mbessa recruited Singed because she said, I will get you what you need.
That's right.
I will get you what you need to save your daughter if you give me all of you, if you work for us and
we didn't get that
loyal
wrapped
to
up,
me.
did we? Like Singe
No,
doesn't get wrapped up.
there are these open little...
No. Well, we see his daughter awake in the end. Remember,
Yeah.
It's for a little bit. It's for a tiny
teaser or
second.
whatever?
Yeah. And she used to be a
that's
dancer
right.
and stuff. And he's
Victor
recruited.
Freeze.
So now he works
yeah.
for the desert nation of Noxus. Like they're a conquering race. I think that the next thing they might want to do, if they want to follow any of the previous story, which they might, is invade the magical country of Ionia, which is rich with spiritual and magical abilities and magical people and animal people and stuff like that. And the Noxians want to conquer it. That's where Swain loses his arm. And Singed is the one who creates the chemical weapon to invade that country.
Okay.
I really hope they go in that direction, but we don't get anything else of Vi or Jinx because I think
I'm okay with their story.
I think all that's wrapped up.
It's perfect.
Perfectly.
Leave it. Don't do what Toy Story did.
Same thing.
Leave
like,
it.
If you want to bring in like Echo or somebody later on in a series or whatever, go for it. But I think just leave it where it's at. Don't say Jinx lived or whatever or died. Don't confirm anything.
It wouldn't matter.
Just
if she did.
leave it as is. I think it's really beautiful. And
And I think what's nice is that story's done.
it's done.
What could you do next?
Exactly.
Right. So they could do that. They could do Demacia, which is an anti-magic city that is racist towards mages. Mel could visit there. We could get an interesting storyline because Mel is still around. They did a cinematic after the show ended of the next part of the game that they're going to come out, and it's Mel investigating who the Black Rose is.
Yeah,
so that would be kind of cool if someone who's born of magic shows up in a city that's anti-magic.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
There's also barbarians in the North Mountains. You could do that. There's a pirate place you can go to buy. That would be sick to see if Ortiz do a pirate story.
That'd be sick.
I personally want to see Fiddlesticks. He's a he's like their horror character.
Oh, nice.
He was created from the first humans feeling fear, and he's a demon of fear, and he's a scarecrow, and he chases them around. It's so cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Those are some cool things. Also, really, really quick before we end it off here, the creators of the show, they started doing music videos, and then they did this show, and it's like, whoa.
Well, they started doing commercials, and then they started doing
commercials.
They did an
the
excellent
music
job.
videos, the animation, all that stuff. Fantastic. I think
they like gave
I'll watch
it
whatever they do next, honestly.
10%.
Yeah.
Like
And
they
the
didn't
details.
need to.
Well, even the
And
little
they did.
details, like the petals blowing in the wind.
Yeah,
And
on that
at the
tree.
beginning of season 2, in front of the memorial of, I think, Caitlin's
Mother.
Her mom, yeah.
Mother that died.
Like, oh, they're just little bits like that, and just the beauty of it all. It
was a very,
excellently
I will
done.
say this, it was
Excellently
a
well done.
visually pleasing series
Captivating,
to watch.
too.
It
My
the
soul
art,
is satisfied.
the colors, the way they use stuff. I mean, I was very watching it a second and then a third time. I was like, gosh, I really just enjoy looking.
I could
at
just
the
keep
visuals.
looking at this
Yeah,
forever.
the visuals were so much fun. Even the dark underbelly is so beautifully animated.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want more, go to the League of Legends YouTube channel. They have all the music
all the
video.
music
They have
videos,
champion
yep.
trailers.
Yeah, I've seen all the champion
Yeah,
trailers.
and you could continue watching great animation from them.
Yeah.
They just came out with one that was like a minute and something. It shows LeBlanc
Yes.
and Vladimir, the leaders of the Black Rose,
Mhm.
and how she has a demon tied up in her basement. Well, it's like a big grand palace, but it's like, free me, I told you the information you wanted. And she like picks up the thing that it's tied to it, like whispers to it, and it tries to go at her, and she's got the red chains holding it, and she's like,
Nice.
no, you're under my I'm like, holy crud, this lady is OP. Like,
Yeah.
mess with her. So it's good. They got cool stuff going on.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think
Nice.
they'll continue to do like little stuff
Fun
for the
stuff.
game, like 1-minute videos for the game, because that's
Well,
quick.
yet again,
Yeah.
what we talked about at the beginning, it's such a fun time to watch other people display their creativity and to be inspired by that creativity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it makes you want to, let's see, what do I want to, I think I shouted out Gilded Guy before, like a long
Long time
episode
ago,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. And how his videos make me want to create.
Yeah.
And how he's
Nice.
like, he was all on his own making his videos. He did like stick fight videos at first. And now when you watch his stuff, it's this, you can't believe it. It's this sweeping animation that's so
Good for
fluid.
him.
And you're like, whoa. And it's all like based off his like own knowledge. Like he's someone who inspires me to want to create. There's not many things that make me
And that
wanna
he
do
has
that.
a platform to do that,
Yeah.
that you can freely view it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and
mean,
Spider-Verse actually got me thinking about, what if I got like a program to do like CG stuff in, which would be a nightmare, by the way. But
Blender, you know.
yeah, all those little like millions of pigs.
you do
and
that.
all the
No, you
characters.
do that. It's the end of the first Into the Spider-Verse.
They're all like
you
T-posing,
do that.
like-
Well, with that, I think we'll end it there. Thank you two so much
Thank you, Jake.
for
Thank you.
joining me and talking about the show, for watching it too, and
Yeah.
a little overdue.
suffering through the heat today. I appreciate you.
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
Yeah, I'm sweating, but could
we'll
be
see.
worse.
Yeah, I have some people coming tomorrow to record, and I know one of them will be fine, but the other one, he's gonna
Aw.
say it's gonna be hot as balls in here. What's going on? So, but anyway, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Jake, for having us.
Yeah, it's a sweet show, and I would like more people to know about it. So.
It's great.
Yes.
And it's on Netflix if you want to watch it. 2 seasons.
Yeah, with the grown-ups.
17? No, 18 episodes.
18, all 9 and 9.
Yeah, 9 and 9. Yeah.
9 in season 1.
Highly recommended. I put it up there with like Cowboy Bebop, House of Cards, some of the
Wall-E,
greatest shows I've
TV.
ever seen. Sopranos, even. I think I put it near Sopranos.
I agree.
Sopranos like number 1 for me.
Excuse
And with next to House of Cards and Cowboy Bebop, I put it just a little under. It's not entirely my thing.
You
But it's
need to do a
definitely worth-
personal ranking of Netflix TV or something.
Well, we'll get there. There's a lot of that. So
You haven't
Well,
even seen
anyway-
it all.
exactly. So, well, anyway, take care out there, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. If you're interested, follow Snarp Fangle Podcast on YouTube and in the future, other podcasting platforms. And we'll see you another time. Remember, if you're walking around Runeterra, don't forget to Snarp Fangle on.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.